Chapter 570. In the youth hall, once the old men left, the atmosphere became deathly still. Bai Hua was gnashing his teeth in hatred at Shun Yuliang for making trouble out of nothing and making him a scapegoat. But at the same time, he was proud that he had made Lin Jingwei sign a military order in front of the elders. He could finally see the person he had been yearning for day and night. Lin Jingwei, on the other hand, was sandwiched between a certain someone who wrote Chun Guang and read Chunyu, and a certain someone whose mind was filled with Chunyu. He could neither live nor die. Chun Guang, on the other hand, was thinking about what he should and shouldn't say. The things that should and shouldn't have happened had all happened tonight. He had to quickly contact Jean Shuriwei and tell her everything that had happened tonight. What should he do? The fake relationship was going to be a reality. As for the military order that Lin Jingwei had just signed, Chun Guang didn't take it seriously at all. Blame me? What does it have to do with me? But at this time, the person at the table who was suffering the most was Shun Yuliang. His original plans were all for naught, especially when he heard Bai Hua publicly declare that he didn't have any feelings for Jean Shuriwei and that his heart belonged to someone else. He realized that his flattery tonight was all for naught. He even felt that the other people at the table were looking at him with a hint of ridicule in their expressions. He wanted to say something to ease the atmosphere and restore some of their relationship, but Chun Guang didn't seem to have any intention of paying attention to him. Lin Jingwei quietly poked Chun Guang's leg. "Brother, can you not step on my foot? I'm also a scapegoat for this matter, okay? What have you been up to these past few days? I feel like today's events are very sci-fi, like I'm living in a dream." Chun Guang was well aware that the only reason why Old Man Tan would bring Jean Shuriwei and Jiang Hua over was because of what he had done in Shun these past few days. He didn't expect it himself. Didn't I just teach you a few skills in darts? Is there a need to praise me like this? Am I that important? Was the contribution of this matter really that great? He also didn't understand how difficult it was for those in power to deal with those martial artists who had mastered inner strength techniques. If he knew more secrets, perhaps he would be able to understand the ecstasy of many old men. At this moment, Secretary Chu walked in with a glass and a bottle in his hand. Although Secretary Chu was just a secretary, he didn't put on airs in front of these second and third generations. He often helped them run errands. For example, at today's gathering, Secretary Chu played the role of a waiter. However, as a popular man in front of the Grand Elders, he still had quite a high status in front of these juniors, so no one dared to look down on him. "Secretary Chu, are you hungry? Why don't you sit down and have a bite?" Bai Hua invited. Secretary Chu laughed. "I've already eaten outside. I'm here to give you a toast." "Oh, why is Uncle Chu doing this today? If you want to drink, let's drink together." "Don't mention toast," Lin Jingwei teased. Unexpectedly, Secretary Chu's expression changed. "It's not the first time we've eaten and drunk together, so it doesn't matter. But today is the first time we've met, little Chun. I have to give you a toast." Some of the smarter ones had already realized that the highlight of today's meal was finally coming. The elders had come over for a visit. Perhaps it was because of the relationship between Chun Guang and Jean Shuriwei, but Secretary Chu was still in his prime. Although he was a secretary, he was actually a rising star in the domestic political world. There must be a deeper meaning behind his toast. Sure enough, as he spoke, he first poured himself a full glass and then filled up Chun Guang's glass. He said, "This is my first toast. I would like to thank Chief Instructor Chun on behalf of my good-for-nothing nephew for teaching him." After saying that, he drained the glass in one gulp. Chun Guang was at a loss, but he also drank a glass of wine. He had already drunk 3 liters today. Although he was a little tipsy, there was no need to worry about it. The others paid attention to the words Chief Instructor Chun that Secretary Chu had said. It was deafening. Other than being an internet celebrity, what other identity did he have for Secretary Chu to call him Chief Instructor? And he was deliberately toasting him? Moreover, Secretary Chu's nephew had received the grace of being taught by him. Secretary Chu this. Chun Guang didn't quite understand what was going on. Seeing that Chun Guang didn't understand, Secretary Chu slapped his forehead. "Hey, look at my brain. I forgot to introduce him. My nephew was one of the students who received special training from Chief Instructor Chun in Shun the day before yesterday. He also successfully obtained some special abilities. Secretary Chu didn't make it clear, but Chun Guang understood instantly. So that was it. Secretary Chu's nephew was one of his believers. Oh, then we should have a drink, Chun Guang laughed. In fact, Secretary Chu felt quite wronged. He thought that his nephew was one of the top students among the outstanding students. He would definitely be able to chat with Chun Guang for a while and know his name. With such a special surname like Chu, Chun Guang should be able to remember it with just a slight hint from him. What he didn't know was that Chun Guang only cared about the first batch of students who were believers, including Li Big Mouth. As for the subsequent batches of students, he would leave immediately after he was done with the charlatan. He wouldn't care about their names. Brother Guang? Chief Instructor? What the hell? Lin Jingwei couldn't help but ask. Chun Guang waved his hand casually. It's not a big deal. I just gave a few lessons to everyone in Shun's special training camp. Shun's special training camp. Chief Instructor. Most of the people present were knowledgeable. They knew how special Shun's special training camp was in the national military. Otherwise, Tan Zhaohua, an old general of the same generation as Jin Jiang, wouldn't be personally in charge of it. They all sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Bai Hua, the leader of the younger generation, felt ashamed of his inferiority. The chief instructor of Shun was not a position that could be gilded with gold for 2 or 3 generations. Not to mention the military rank. It was impossible to be an ordinary instructor in Shun if one did not have the ability to convince the masses and was capable enough. Every ordinary instructor, there would be an absolute elite in the military. At the very least, they would be the leader of a special forces team like Xuelin. What's more, Chun Guang's title had the word chief in front of it. On the other side, Secretary Chu spoke again. Chief Instructor Chun, you can't treat this as a small matter. My second toast is a toast to Chief Instructor Chun, as a former soldier and now a politician, for your contributions to the country. What you've done in Shun's special training camp may be something you did casually, but to us, it's a great debt of gratitude. With that, he drained his cup in one gulp. Everyone felt a sense of loss. Their guess had been confirmed. He was indeed Shun's chief instructor. This third cup is a toast to you, Head Instructor Chun, on behalf of the senior leaders. Everyone at the table was completely speechless. What had happened at the banquet tonight was completely beyond their common sense. It was understandable that the 3 elders, Jin, Jiang, and Tan, had come to toast, but why did the other elders who hadn't come solemnly ask Secretary Chu to toast on their behalf? Even if he really was Shun's chief instructor, he couldn't possibly receive such treatment. That's right. Secretary Chu seemed to have vaguely revealed some more information. What course was Chun Guang's chief instructor at Shun? What kind of ability did he have as a so-called internet celebrity? What did he teach that could be considered as a great debt of gratitude? More and more question marks slowly emerged in everyone's hearts, but Secretary Chu's toast ended here. Chun Guang and he drained their cups again, and Secretary Chu bowed and left. Brother Guang, if you confess, I'll be lenient. If you resist, I'll be strict. What kind of chief instructor are you in Shun? Lin Jingwei couldn't hold it in anymore. His heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. Chun Guang scratched his head and stuffed a mouthful of food into his mouth to suppress the alcohol. He had drunk a little too much today. Nothing much. I'll just teach you how to play darts. Darts? The other second and third generations at the table, who were listening intently to the conversation between the two, were confused. Some liked to watch sports channels or were well informed. They knew that Chun Guang had recently won the World Darts Championship. But what did this have to do with military special training? A mere champion of the World Darts Championship was nothing in their circle. Seeing Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua's expressions of disbelief, Chun Guang nodded again. Yes, darts. I don't understand. I really don't understand. Lin Jingwei shook his head. It's fine if you don't understand. You'll understand when you grow up. Chun Guang patted his head. Get lost. After the 3 old men and Secretary Chu's argument, the atmosphere at the table suddenly changed. No one dared to respond to Shun Yuliang's relentless pursuit. They didn't immediately throw away their moral integrity and try to curry favor with him. After all, everyone was a person of status. However, their tone and attitude did become much more respectful. It was so much so that he seemed to be treating Chen Guang, Lin Jingwei, and Bai Hua on the same level. Chen Guang was now also a smart person. He was just a passerby in this circle, but there was no need to make things difficult for Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua in the future. So, he was amiably joking with these people. At the table, there was only one person who couldn't sit still. Shen Yuliang even felt that it would have been better for him to just follow Bai Hua's instructions and simply leave. Later on, he would think of a way to make up for this little bit of conflict and filth. That way, he wouldn't be stuck between a rock and a hard place. He tried to talk to Chen Guang several times, but every time Chen Guang's eyes drifted to him, it was as if he was looking at air. Chen Guang's eyes would swish to the side, leaving him unable to say a word. Finally, Shen Yuliang had waited for a golden opportunity. Using the high school girl, Tong Xiaoming, as an opportunity to ask Chen Guang to be her spokesperson, Chen Guang said in a half-joking, half-serious tone, "Well, don't worry about being the chief instructor. I may not go back, but I'm afraid I'll have to continue being an internet celebrity. If anyone needs a spokesperson, you can look for me. I'll give you 20% off." Shen Yuliang hurriedly replied, "Okay. It's hard to say for other companies, but Brother Qingguang, my online company can only ask you to be their spokesperson. Now that you're so famous, it's not wrong to say that you're an A-list celebrity. You used to be our company's gold medal driver. They say that a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Now that our online company is asking you to be their spokesperson, it's a match made in heaven." Perhaps it was because he was too excited, but Shen Yuliang's voice was too loud, covering the voices of everyone else at the table. This time, Chen Guang finally couldn't ignore him. He slowly turned his face and stared straight at the person sitting next to him. Shen Yuliang's heart was beating very fast. If Chen Guang accepted his joke, tonight's conflict would be over. Then, under his nervous gaze, Chen Guang gently took a breath and said, "Except for you." Shen Yuliang's heart tightened, and he said awkwardly, I don't want to talk to you." Shen Yuliang's heart tightened, and he said awkwardly, I don't want to talk to you." Hearing those words, Shen Yuliang's face instantly turned red. Chen Guang's words had thoroughly swept his face to the ground. Tong Xiaoming, the little girl, couldn't help but cover her mouth and let out a soft snort. This made Shen Yuliang feel even more embarrassed, and he wanted to find a hole in the ground to hide in. "Chen Guang, you..." He clenched his teeth and wanted to say something harsh, but he recalled everything that had happened before, and the harsh words could only be stuck in his throat, and he couldn't say it out. "Don't look at me so fiercely. As the old saying goes, there must be a cause and effect, right? I didn't offend you, and we're not the same kind of people. You don't have to hurt yourself to repair your relationship with me. It's really not necessary. Look at you. You look like you want to cry. I feel sorry for you. Well, let's go in the future. You go your own way, and I'll go my own way. Isn't that good? Tonight, let's eat and drink to our heart's content, and then leave. Everyone, it's still very nice to meet everyone today. In the future, when you come to 5 Capital, remember to find me. You can't miss a meal. I'll leave first." Chen Guang said, suddenly got up, lifted his leg, and quickly walked out of the door. Others thought that he was annoyed with Shen Yuliang, but only Lin Jingwei felt that Chen Guang's actions were abnormally agile, and then stood up. "Brother Guang, wait for me." Chen Guang's voice came from afar. "I'll wait for you, my ass. I want to go back to 5 Capital." Lin Jingwei continued to shout, "There are no flights tonight. I'll leave tomorrow. I'll drive back." "You still want to drive after drinking 4 liters of wine? Are you trying to go to heaven?" Their voices traveled further and further, and finally, Chen Guang was pulled back by Lin Jingwei's clothes. "Damn it, don't pull me," Chen Guang said softly, suppressing his voice. Lin Jingwei refused to let go. "Brother Guang, don't run away. Can you help me? If I don't drag Chen Yu out, I won't be able to complete my mission. You don't know the situation of Brother Bai's grandfather and us old men. Brother Xiao Bai's marriage is an important matter that must be raised to the national level. F*CKU, it's none of my business. Besides, I can pretend once, but can I pretend forever? I can't do anything about national affairs, okay? I can't do anything about the universe, okay? I can't make a Chunyu out of rock, okay? Chen Guang was speechless. How could this bastard's brain be so smart? He ran away so suddenly, but he still caught him. No, 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 that's not what I mean. You just need to help me deal with it one more time. Be more ruthless, be more direct, and let Brother Bai completely give up on this idea. I'll also be able to give an explanation to the old man. As a brother, I've never begged you before. This time, I'm really begging you. Don't beg me. It's useless. What are you two talking about? Just then, Bai Hua's voice came from the corner behind the two of them. Chen Guang and Lin Jingwei were startled. Damn it, Brother Bai. Why did you chase after them without saying a word? You scared the two of them to death. If you leave, how can we eat in the youth hall? Are you going to leave poor Shun Yuliang alone there with his heart broken into pieces? Chapter 571. No, nothing. Lin Jingwei cowered, not knowing what to say. On the other hand, Chen Guang forcefully put on an aloof expression and asked, "The dinner inside?" Bai Hua waved his hand indifferently. Ignore them, it doesn't matter. I feel uncomfortable eating in the youth hall. They will feel more comfortable if we leave. That's right. Lin Jingwei laughed. He just wanted to get rid of Bai Hua as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would be inexplicably panicking. Unexpectedly, Bai Hua changed the topic and put his arm around Lin Jingwei's shoulder. Fine, I won't ask what you two were arguing about. Let's go somewhere else to drink. Why do we have to drink? Lin Jingwei tried to struggle, but Bai Hua's grip only tightened. Isn't it all because of you? I asked you to meet someone, but you kept making excuses. You were the one who brought that person to me, and now I'm haggard because of you. If you don't drink with me, then who am I supposed to drink with? Bai Hua pushed Lin Jingwei forward. Chen Guang took the opportunity and said, Then you two go drink. I drank too much today and feel dizzy, so I won't go. How could Lin Jingwei let Chen Guang go? He knew that Bai Hua would definitely pester him about Chen Yu's matter, and if he let Chen Guang go tonight, Chen Guang would return to the 5 capitals tomorrow morning. At that time, Lin Jingwei wouldn't even be able to call for help. So, today is the day. Don't even think about escaping. Bai Hua pulled Lin Jingwei, and Lin Jingwei pulled Chen Guang. Brother Guang, do you think I don't know how much you can drink? Don't pretend. You can't go back to Wujing tonight anyway. Let's go. How could Chen Guang not know what Lin Jingwei was thinking? He cursed him in his heart. Brother Guang, let's go. Look at my sincere eyes. Don't you have the slightest bit of soft-heartedness? In front of Bai Hua, Lin Jingwei couldn't say anything, but the teary look in his eyes was really pitiful. For some reason, Chen Guang unexpectedly nodded his head. His heart had softened. All right, stop pulling. If you keep pulling, my clothes will be torn apart. Seeing that Chen Guang had finally relented, Lin Jingwei felt relieved. He was so excited that he almost jumped 3 feet high. Let's go. Let's go to Ino. Inuo was quite famous among the 2nd and 3rd generations in Yanjin. The young people of Lin Jingwei's generation liked to go to Inuo when they had nothing to do. That place was more private, and the guests there were either rich or noble. It was also relatively safe, and it was not easy to get into trouble. Let's drink until the world turns upside down. At this moment, Bai Hua no longer had the arrogance of the vice president of Tianjin Energy Group. With Lin Jingwei and Chen Guang, he had returned to the appearance of a young man. In the largest private room of Inuo Club, Tiana No. 1, a crisp and melodious song was lingering. It was the famous song, Leaving Island Song, by Jin Shuriwei and Jiang Yage. This ancient Chinese song had 3 twists and turns, and it was extremely difficult to sing. However, if it was sung well, it could be melodious and lingering. At this moment, the song in this private room was exactly the same as the original song by the left and right hand. It was so beautiful that people couldn't extricate themselves from it. Fortunately, Inuo's decorations were high-end. Even if the song was loud inside, no one could hear it from the outside. Otherwise, even in a high-end club like Inuo, there would definitely be people peeping to see if it was really the left and right hand. At the end of the song, thunderous applause came from Tianhe No. 1 private room. 7 or 8 girls were clapping desperately. Sister Shuri West sang well. This is what you call a reproduction of the original song. Why do I feel like it's better than listening to it on a CD? A beautiful and charming girl was so excited that her face was flushed. That's right. A few days ago, that music critic called Phone Something actually dared to insinuate that Sister Shuriwe and Sister Yage were lip-syncing. Let him listen to it and let him know who's better. Another little girl gnashed her teeth. Jean Shuriwe put down the microphone and glared at the person. Forget it. Let others say it. We know what's going on. Yage, don't you think so? Jiang Yage wasn't as kind as Jean Shuriwe. Instead, she glared at her fiercely. This won't do. Next time when we have a meet and greet, we must have a good talk with him and sing a cappella for him. If he still refuses to let go, we'll let him know who's better. Your temper is still so bad. When can you change it? Jean Shuriwe couldn't do anything to her. Sister Shuriwe, stop talking about Sister Yage. When are you going to call brother-in-law over to show everyone? Although we can always see him on TV or on the internet, we have never seen him in person. It's too much. We sisters haven't even checked him, and you've already been taken away. Jiang Yage also egged her on. That's right. Chen Guang is just a student. Now it's summer vacation. Why is he as busy as a national leader? Does he even have you, Sister Shuriwe, as his girlfriend? Jean Shuriwe gave Jiang Yage a hard look. She knew that she was deliberately making trouble. It was clear that she was thinking about Chen Guang all day long, but she used herself as a cover. You go find him yourself. How can I overstep my authority? Otherwise, I'll be scolded by others for a whole year. Well, although he is a student, he also has his own business to do. He may not be as leisurely as us artists. In the future, we will meet sooner or later. There's no hurry. When saying this, Jean Shuriwe was thinking in her heart. When would she be able to be a cover? In addition, Chen Guang, where are you now? What are you doing? The same question was in Jiang Yage's heart, but the two of them didn't care for long. It was rare for them to have a vacation after the concert. How could they not have a good rest? What? Tian, he number 1 has been occupied? Standing in the lobby of the Enua Club, Bai Hua stared at the lobby manager in front of him. Under Bai Hua's gaze, the lobby manager's temples broke out in cold sweat. This matter was also his fault. In the afternoon, Bai Hua did call to reserve Tian he number 1. But in the evening, Jiang Yage and Jean Shuriwe came with a group of sisters and also asked for Tian he number 1. At that time, the manager couldn't afford to offend either side, so he could only push the matter to Bai Hua, saying that it was Bai Hua who made the decision. Unexpectedly, Jiang Yage said carelessly that Bai Hua went to dinner with the elders tonight. How could he come to sing? The poor lobby manager accidentally found out something he shouldn't have known, so he took the opportunity to give the private room to Jiang Yage. Who would have thought that Bai Hua would still come? What should they do? The lobby manager obviously knew some inside information. For example, Bai Hua had once been deeply in love with Jean Shuriwe. Now, Jean Shuriwe had publicly announced that she had a boyfriend. If he were to lure Bai Hua over, it would be like a bolt of lightning crashing into the ground. If the two families were to have a conflict, perhaps nothing would happen to them. But as the main culprit, he would definitely die a horrible death. At this time, Chen Guang, who was next to him, said, Tian he number 1 is gone. Why don't we go to D he number 1? Lin Jingwei asked curiously, How do you know about D he number 1? Chen Guang looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. I really don't want to chat with you. I'm afraid I'll lower my standards. The lobby manager saw an opportunity and quickly said, Yes, D number 1 is really there. The 2 private rooms are about the same, otherwise, no. Bai Hua was still stubborn. Lin Jingwei also tried to persuade him, Come on, it's rare for us brothers to come out for a drink. Don't get upset over such a small matter. In the end, Bai Hua still gave in. The 3 of them occupied such a large space, so there was nothing to be uncomfortable about. No one asked for a song. Bai Hua's purpose here was to drink and get drunk. Lin Jingwei was responsible for accompanying, and Chen Guang was responsible for decorating. Chen Guang also tried to ask for a song, but Lin Jingwei noticed it in time and stopped him. The 2 of them sat at the table and drank without any prelude. Chen Guang, on the other hand, sat on the sofa and played with his phone. He didn't bother with his Weibo account for a long time. His message bar was almost full of fans' comments and private messages. He quietly turned his back to the two of them and looked at the pictures sent by his female fans. His heart was a little restless, but drowsiness gradually came over him. It had been about 30 to 40 minutes since the start of the dinner, and 3 liters of wine had already gone down their throats. If it was an ordinary person, they would have long fallen to the ground. Even Chen Guang, who had refined his wine tank in the sea of moments, found it a little difficult. The aftereffects of high-quality wine were not small. Just as he was about to close his eyes, Lin Jingwei finally left Bai Hua alone. He said that he had to go to the toilet and desperately winked at Chen Guang before leaving. Chen Guang pretended not to see it. After leaving, Lin Jingwei took out his phone and texted Chen Guang, "Brother, I beg you, I'm really begging you. Just this once, don't do it again. I swear." This was not the end. Lin Jingwei simply told Chen Guang about the matter of Bai Hua's grandfather and the other old men. Chen Guang found out that many of those old men who were still alive owed the Bai family's old man a favor. So forget it. Chen Guang also made up his mind. In any case, he had played the role of Chen Yu once and twice. He didn't want Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei to give up. This matter couldn't be dragged on forever. He could hide from the monk, but he couldn't hide from the temple. He might as well put on another act and completely break Bai Hua's heart. Who told him to first do something shameful and sell Patek Philippe? He dug a hole and buried it himself. He had to make up for his own mistakes. Therefore, he also apologized to Bai Hua, saying that he had some urgent matters to attend to and had to go out for a while. As soon as Chen Guang went out, he was pulled to the side in private room number 2 by Lin Jingwei. He didn't know when this bastard informed Sister Hua, but Sister Hua, who was known as the ghost hand of Beijing, was already in the private room, sharpening her knife and waiting. Lin Jingwei pushed Chen Guang into Sister Hua's arms, put his palms together, and begged, "Brother Guang, I owe you a lifetime of kindness for today. I really have to rely on you. My life is in your hands. I'm going back to Tiananmen number 1 now. Don't run away. Otherwise, go watch the legal news tomorrow. I promise to jump from the signal tower of China's TV station for you to see." After saying that, Lin Jingwei turned around and ran away, leaving Chen Guang alone in private room number 2, staring at Sister Hua, who was grinning and full of fighting spirit. "Wait, let me calm down. Please give me 3 seconds to think about it. Lighter, mommy, lighter. My scalp. Where do you live, Sister Hua? I'll visit you someday to thank you. You want to beat me up, right? Dream on." About half an hour later, Sister Hua looked at her perfect artwork with satisfaction. She kept repeating one word over and over again, "Beautiful." The effect was perfect, even better than the last time. Thanks to Chen Guang's clean bald head, it was much easier to take care of the wig than the last time. A person's appearance, other than facial features, accounted for at least 30% of the effect of hairstyle. The current Chen Guang, the current Chen Yu, had a more natural hairstyle than the last time. Coupled with Sister Hua's exquisite facial features, she gave off the vibe of a European supermodel. Cool, no, it should be called cool and elegant today. She was cold and elegant with a hint of charm, and there was no lack of heroism in her charm. As long as she stood there, she would naturally become the focus of the crowd. Walking on the street, any talent scout with a good eye would be able to notice her at first glance. The returning supermodel, language genius, and business elite, Chen Yu, had made a comeback. Sister Hua chuckled. This is perfect. Miss Chen. Oh no, Mr. Chen, Sister Hua, have traveled all over the world. I've done at least 1,000, if not 8 or 10,000 times, but I've never met someone like you. You're a little handsome when you're a man, but after changing your makeup, your beauty soars to the sky. It's such a pity that you weren't born a girl." As she spoke, she shoved the mirror in front of Chen Guang. Chen Guang cursed in his heart, "Girl, my ass. Your whole family is female." He took the mirror and didn't want to complain anymore. If it wasn't for the fact that Sister Hua was sweating profusely for the past half an hour, he would have used his hands to wipe off all the makeup on his face. "I'm really going to call the police. F***CKU. I'm going to be the bad guy today to make that by guy give up." You made me look so coquettish that I'm almost *king obsessed with myself. Oh no, my arm. Forget, I'll just chop it off. How is it? I've used my trump card today. Little Chun. Oh no, Mr. Chun, are you satisfied? Sister Hua looked at Chun Guang eagerly, hoping that he would praise her. Chun Guang stared straight at her. I'm so satisfied that I want to fight you. Sister Hua clapped her hands. Miss Chun, I really can't talk about your voice. Why didn't you tell me earlier that you could change your voice? This sister's feet are about to go limp from the sweetness. That's right, the considerate and gentle Miss Lu Li didn't need Chun Guang's help this time. She took the initiative to give him the perfect voice of a goddess. It was still her own voice. Chun Guang silently shed a couple of caddies of tears in his heart. Miss Lu Li, you're so considerate. I thank you for your whole family. On the other hand, after Lin Jingwei returned to He1, he casually said that Chun Guang had something urgent to attend to and had to leave first, so he would drink with him slowly. After waiting for a few more minutes, Lin Jingwei pretended to play on WeChat and slammed the table. Brother Bai, Sister Chun Yu finally said something. She said she'll come over later. Bai Hua's drunkenness was instantly washed away, and he stood up from the sofa. Where is she? I'll go to the door to pick her up. Lin Jingwei hurriedly stopped him, cold sweat dripping down his back. He didn't know if he didn't try, but now that he did, he was shocked. Brother Bai was really possessed. Brother Bai, calm down. She'll be here in at least half an hour. Chapter 572. In Tian He No. 1's private room, a group of young girls sang happily. Jean Shuriwei and Jianya took a break when they were tired from singing. A group of young and beautiful girls gathered together. Although the others' singing skills and image were slightly inferior to Jean Shuriwei and Jianya, they were still the cream of the crop when compared to the ordinary people's circle. Everyone had their own fun when they sang and came on stage. Sister Shuriwei, let's find an excuse to go to the 5 capitals in 2 days. Jiang Yage and Jean Shuriwei whispered in the corner of the private room. Jean Shuriwei was moved, but she couldn't show it on her face. She only smiled and teased. If you really miss him, give him a call. In any case, I don't mind a good sister like you. Jiang Yage spat at her. If he heard your words, I wonder how happy he would be. What, Sister Shuriwei? Could it be that he wants to catch us both in one fell swoop? Jean Shuriwei looked at her excited look and sighed in her heart. She couldn't help but pour cold water on her. But I don't think so. I feel that he doesn't want to catch us in one fell swoop. He wants to avoid everyone, right? That seems to be the case. Jiang Yage looked gloomy and sighed slightly. When Jean Shuriwei saw her desolate look, her heart twisted even more. If I had known this would happen, I would have let you have this fake relationship with him back then. You have a cheerful personality. If you take more initiative with this reputation, he will definitely not be able to resist you sooner or later. Jiang Yage shook her head repeatedly. That won't do. My grandfather is not like your grandfather. He will definitely rush to the 5 capitals and twist his head off. It's just that Sister Shuriwei has wronged you. Jean Shuriwei smiled. What's wrong with it? Isn't he also my friend? The way things are now is pretty good. There are no more flies around, so Brother Bai Hua won't be in a difficult position. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That's right, Sister Shuriwei. You're the best to me. Jiang Yage became happy again and hugged Jean Shuriwei with a smile. Feeling Jiang Yage's dependence and trust in her, a faint sadness lingered in Jean Shuriwei's heart. She couldn't help but ask herself if she was really a good sister in her current state. It was indeed Jiang Yage who confessed to Chun Guang first, but now she was the first one. At least nominally, she was tied to Chun Guang. If her heart was really as calm as still water, perhaps she would be the one who suffered a loss. But my heart isn't so open and above board. Jean Shuriwei felt ashamed. She felt that she had let down Jiang Yage's trust. She also knew that with her family's financial situation, once their relationship was announced, it wouldn't be easy to take it back. That was why she had thought of ways to prevent her grandfather and Chun Guang from meeting. She was afraid that Chun Guang would directly pass her grandfather's test. If that happened, it wouldn't be easy for her to not make it real. She sighed heavily in her heart and hugged Jiang Yage's waist again. She silently thought that if it really came to that in the future, she would have to bear the bad reputation and become a female celebrity who liked the new and hated the old. She would have to cut off her wrists. When that time came, she would take the initiative to break up with the excuse that both of us were busy with our careers and neglected to see each other. In the end, Chun Guang couldn't stay in the second private room for too long. After being forced to change into a neutral shirt, he was pushed out by Sister Hua. Sister Hua had originally prepared a master gray dress from the Milan Fashion Week for him. But after being beaten up by him, Sister Hua didn't struggle anymore. Standing outside the door, Chun Guang looked at the number plate of the room opposite him. He took a deep breath and squeezed out an awkward smile. He turned around and walked forward. Standing in front of the door of the first room, he opened the door and strode in. His movements were smooth. At the same time, he kept recalling the many cliché TV dramas in his mind. He tried to figure out how those emotionless female characters rejected people with an attitude that hurt them to the bone. After thinking about it, he couldn't help but feel sorry for the pathetic amount of TV dramas he watched. The only option in his mind was Abyss Miju. Seriously, the old man didn't watch soap operas at all. Bai Hua, who had already stopped drinking, was waiting on the sofa with a face full of anticipation. When Chun Guang opened the door, he stared at the door. In the next moment, he stood up straight as if springs had been added to his legs. His whole body was as stiff as a piece of cured meat that had been hung on the beam to dry for an entire winter. His eyes instantly became misty as he stared at the tall and beautiful figure at the door. Under the illumination of the bright lights in the private room, her body seemed to have a strange glow, but it also turned her into a black hole, swallowing Bai Hua's gaze and mind bit by bit. His breathing became faster and faster, and his heartbeat became heavier and heavier. 10,000 little rabbits were galloping in his chest, and a 10,000-ton hammer was ruthlessly smashing into Bai Hua's heart. Her expression was as cold as ice, but in Bai Hua's eyes, it was like the dimpled smile of the prettiest girl in middle school in his childhood. Bai Hua felt like he was possessed. He shouted in his heart over and over again, "I didn't guess wrong. I really fell in love with Chun Yu at first sight." Perhaps no one would believe it, but as a proud son of heaven of Yinjing, how could I be so melodramatic? Even in Cambridge, a place full of heroes, when I was only 16 years old, I was able to make countless seniors and teachers exclaim in admiration. Bai Hua, the absolutely calm thinker from the East. How could a person like me fall in love with a strange girl at first sight? This was only the second time we met, but in his mind, it was as if he had gone back in time to when he was 12 or 13 years old. I really did confirm a mysterious theory. The calmer a person was, the easier it was to lose control when they went crazy. Bai Hua clenched his fists tightly. His mind was filled with random thoughts, but his mind was blank. In fact, the effects of Lu Li's godly hypnosis had long since passed. There were many reasons why things had turned out like this. Bai Hua had hidden the pain of losing Jean Shuriware in his heart. He was a conceited and stubborn person, so he didn't want to easily show his disappointment and frustration. He could only grit his teeth and endure it. He really needed a new target to divert his attention and to vent his yearning for love that had nowhere else to go. But what made him feel the most despair was that, with his high standards, even those glamorous celebrities would be compared to Jean Shuriware. The more they compared, the more despair he felt. That was until he met Chun Yu, a talented and arrogant, miraculous girl like him. Then, he fell into Lu Li's trap. Originally, things would have been fine, but Chun Guang had displayed a high level of attainment in Arabic. Under the influence of the hypnosis, Chun Yu's image in Bai Hua's heart was constantly perfected. Not only did he not resist the after effects, but he also deepened the obsession in his heart again and again, venting all the pain and loneliness of losing Jean Shuriware on the perfect goddess who had descended from the sky. It was said that the other side of a genius was paranoia, and Bai Hua had interpreted this concept to the extreme. The more he couldn't see her, the more he wanted to see her. Now that they had finally reunited, she was even more perfect than before. Chun Guang had goosebumps all over his body from Bai Hua's gaze. Fine, I'll endure it. After all, Poor brother, I was a victim of Lu Li's godly hypnosis. But little Lin, why the hell are you looking at me like that when you're high? I can't take it anymore. My stomach acid is going to go out of control again. Chen Guang covered his mouth and coughed twice, reminding Lin Jingwei to restrain himself. Lin Jingwei finally shook his head and came back to his senses. Fine, he also had goosebumps all over his body. He hurriedly pushed Bai Hua's back from the back. Bai Hua's misty eyes finally regained their clarity. His face was flushed red as he walked over. Hello, Miss Chunyu. The next second, Chunyu turned into Abbess Miju. She raised her head slightly and looked at the ceiling at an arrogant 45-degree angle. Her cold eyes were like a waterfall as she looked at Bai Hua indifferently. Not good at all. Lin Jingwei keeps telling me that you want to see me, so I'm really not good at all. Please look at yourself in the mirror. I really don't have any feelings for you. Please stop this pointless harassment. At this moment, thanks to more than 10 versions of the great performing artist's perfect performance of Abbess Miju, all the great female homeroom teachers, female math teachers, and female politics teachers, Chen Guang's originally terrible acting skills suddenly exploded. At this moment, Chen Yu was like the incarnation of a female dean. Her expression was cold, arrogant, and her eyes were filled with extreme annoyance and contempt. Even Lin Jingwei, who was standing behind her, inexplicably thought of his high school homeroom teacher, Teacher Ma, but it was useless. Bai Hua wasn't angry at all. He actually blushed. He scratched his head awkwardly and said in a simple and honest manner, that if Lin Jingwei has caused any trouble for you, Miss Chun, I would like to express my sincere apologies. Please don't worry, Miss Chun. I really didn't mean to make things difficult for you. I really didn't mean anything by it. Currently, I'm in charge of the Middle East business at Tianjin Energy. The last negotiation was also perfectly resolved with your help, Miss Chun. Tianjin Group really needs Miss Chun to provide translation support. I've asked to meet you several times because I'm really thirsty for talent. Lin Jingwei's mouth opened wider and wider. His brain felt like it was being struck by lightning. Brother Bai Hua, you're going against the heavens. I've known you for almost 20 years, and I've never seen you so cowardly. How can your brain work so fast? You've come up with the translation requirements in the blink of an eye. Are you going to use your devilish brain to pick up girls? But this girl is a guy. Even Chen Guang was dumbfounded. How can this be tolerated? He really couldn't continue acting. His mouth was slightly open in a daze. Damn, the old man had been in the field of shamelessness for more than 10 years. He had always thought that his skin was so thick that it could destroy heaven and earth. Never in a million years would he have thought that brother Bai Hua was actually at the level of creating heaven and earth. The old man admitted defeat. Chapter 573. This was not the end of it. Bai Hua made an extremely gentlemanly gesture to lead him forward, but did not touch Chen Guang at all, showing extreme aristocratic etiquette. Chen Guang slightly turned his face away. Miju Shirdai had a bad start. What should he do now? At this time, Liu Li's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Let me tell you a piece of good news. Within 24 hours, the world within the heavenly line cup that you want will arrive. Damn, don't. I'm not mentally prepared at all. Can we change the time? I'm not in the right state right now. What do you think? What did it mean when it rains, it pours? Roughly speaking, Chen Guang's current state was that he was wearing women's clothing, had a female voice, and was playing the role of a goddess. Yet, he had to face the completely impolite world within the cup. The painful lesson from the language master's cup last time had taught him not to take Lioli's so-called 24 hours seriously. If he did not agree, it would be 3 seconds later. He began to panic. The strongest cross-dressing man in history? This was not good, right? With a stiff face, Chen Guang sat on the sofa with a heavy heart. Bai Hua was very attentive and asked him this and that. What do you like to drink? Cola? Orange juice? Sprite? Not talking? Don't like any of them? Wang Laoji. Jiadu Bao. Huzheng? Oh, I understand. You must like to drink with Evian. Or everlasting ice spring. Lin Jingwei, who was watching from the side, was completely dumbfounded. In just 5 short minutes, the image of Bai Hua which he had spent 20 years building up in his heart as a proud son of heaven, had been shattered like an ice sculpture in the summer. He felt ashamed and covered his face in extreme embarrassment. He only felt that his life was as lonely as snow. He could only helplessly watch a genius of a generation, a genius of Yinjing, and the most famous genius of China in the past 20 years fall to such a state. It really made one sigh, and only felt that fate was playing with people. However, Chen Guang's Miju, Shurtai's golden body had already been broken, and his mind was filled with thoughts of the impending arrival of the Heaven's Thread Cup. How could he be in the mood to continue acting with Bai Hua? But since he was already here, and his goal of making him give up had not been achieved, he could not simply leave. Chen Guang couldn't come up with an idea in such a short time, and he couldn't keep up the act any longer. So, he just kept a straight face and ignored Bai Hua. Annoyed, Chen Guang waved his hand impatiently. "Mr. Bai, I would like to sit quietly for a while. If you really want me to provide translation services for your company, then please act like a professional. You're really bothering me." Bai Hua was taken aback for a moment, but he immediately snapped out of his daze and was overjoyed. I knew that my efforts wouldn't go to waste. She must have felt my sincerity. If she really didn't have any feelings for me, she wouldn't have hinted at me to change the way we interact. I'm really stupid. I'm confused because I'm too concerned. She's such a unique woman in the world. Why would she like this kind of cliché? She must be like me, pursuing a soul mate who can resonate with both talent and spirit. That's fine. As long as she's willing to wake me up, it means that I still have a chance. As expected of Bai Hua, he instantly adjusted his state of mind. He no longer jumped up and down around Chen Guang. Instead, he obediently sat to the side and seriously thought about how to arrange a suitable position for Chunyu within the Tianjin group. It couldn't be too low. She must be as proud and arrogant as I am. A low starting point would be an insult to her, but also couldn't be too high. The higher the position, the more burdensome the work would be. She must have her own career. Completely tying her to the Tianjin group would definitely conflict with her own perfect career plans. What should I do? Bai Hua tugged at Lin Jingwei's arm again, sipping the red wine in his hand as he pondered deeply. Lin Jingwei was shocked by Bai Hua's state of deep thought. It's here, Brother Bai Hua's legendary thinker state. 8 years ago, when the relationship between a certain country and China was at its peak, it was in this state that Bai Hua came up with the idea of having China participate in the construction and operation of a certain country's high-speed railway. This not only resolved the conflict between the two countries, but also created tens of billions of dollars worth of foreign exchange. At that time, Bai Hua was only 15 years old. Now he was going to show off his true ability to pick up girls. Brother Guang, can you still hold on? Lin Jingwei secretly looked at Chen Guang, but he was so scared by Chen Guang's troubled look that he almost peed his pants. Brother, you're not really thinking about this, are you? Don't scare me. If I really play with fire, won't I become a sinner for all eternity? How can I face son Xiaoxuan, Grandpa Bai, the party, and the country? Most importantly, I would definitely be ganged up on by all the old men and be beaten to death by the mixed old age style. If the current Xinguang knew that his impatient attempt to force Bai Hua to retreat had been interpreted by the other party as a hint, "Don't be like this. What do you have to do for me to like you?" he would definitely vomit 3 liters of blood. However, the current Chunyu was not in the mood to think about anything else. She was busy thinking about how to deal with the Heaven's Line Cup. Compared to the completely unreasonable Heaven's Line Cup, the Heaven's Line Cup was at least a little earlier notice. So, as long as Chen Guang guaranteed that he would think about something 24/7, he would have a high chance of successfully entering the Heaven's Line Cup. What did he need the most right now? If it wasn't for the incident with Wenwen and the hot pot restaurant, the acting world would undoubtedly be his top priority. But right now, what Chen Guang needed the most was to increase his strength as quickly as possible, especially to train his muscles to the point where he could practice the Verdant Red Scroll. That's right, it's you. The strongest and most perfect body in history, with no blind spots. After making up his mind, Chen Guang's heart calmed down a little, and he was no longer that nervous. He lightly curled up his thumb and middle finger. F***CK. He quickly returned to his normal state, picked up a can of herbal tea, and downed it. Then, he stood up, intending to leave. But in his heart, he was constantly thinking about the verdant red scroll's external techniques to train his body. Miss Chen, what are you? Bai Hua hurriedly turned around and asked. Chen Guang took a deep breath. It's getting late. You wanted to see me, and you've already seen me. If there's nothing else, let's part ways here. He didn't say goodbye. He simply didn't want to see her ever again. Hey, don't. That's right. Our Skyline Energy is planning to set up a Middle East international department, and we really need a consultant like you. That's right, a consultant. Bai Hua relied on his brain to dominate the business world, and he was able to come up with an idea in an emergency. Beside him, Lin Jingwei asked curiously, doesn't the Middle East International Department overlap with Brother Xiao Bai's business? Bai Hua silently stepped on Lin Jingwei's foot. There's no overlap. There's no overlap at all. Miss Chen, listen to my analysis. It's like this. Didn't you come back to China to start business? But you must have a big platform. First of all, as long as you're willing to work as a consultant for Tianjin, you'll be able to access first-hand information from all aspects of the domestic energy industry. This is completely in line with your personal career planning and needs. Moreover, the position of a consultant is relatively free, and it won't take up too much of your time. Most importantly, we're about to launch a comprehensive cooperation with the Middle East region, and we need a professional business talent like you who knows how to translate and negotiate. You'll definitely be able to show off your skills. I can give you a big platform, a high starting point, and a broad vision. This is a promise that I, Bai Hua, will make. It's also an official invitation from Skyline Energy Group. When he said these words, Bai Hua brought out his usual negotiation state, and there wasn't a trace of personal emotion in his eyes. If Chen Guang really was the female elite who returned home from China that Lin Jingwei had spouted, she really couldn't resist the temptation that Bai Hua was offering. Unfortunately, Bai Hua was destined to play the lute to a cow. Letting out a sigh, Chen Guang gently flipped his wig and continued, I'm indebted to Mr. Bai's love for me. But Mr. Bai, please don't mention this matter again. Learning Arabic was just a coincidence, and I'm not focused on it. You found the wrong person. With that, Chen Guang turned around and left. He really lost to Bai Hua. Bai Hua hurriedly followed behind him. Why? Miss Chen, you only learn Arabic by chance, and you're already at this level. You're a talent among talents. Being a consultant isn't troublesome at all. Chen Guang opened the door and stepped out. Seeing that Bai Hua still hadn't given up, he turned around again and looked at Bai Hua impatiently. Mr. Bai, the drunkard has ulterior motives. Why we have to make things so clear? Chen Guang, cough. Although Chen Yu, don't have any background, and I know how hard it is to start a business, I don't have the face to accept this kind of pie that falls from the sky. Mr. Bai, you're a dragon among men, and I, Chen Yu, can't reach your level. This time, Chen Guang's words were completely unpleasant to hear. Bai Hua's face instantly turned white. Even Jin Shuriwei had never rejected him in such a straightforward manner. He only felt waves of pain in his heart, and even his body almost couldn't stand steadily. His heart was empty, as if he had fallen from the edge of a cliff, and what awaited him was an endless abyss. This made him feel even sadder and more despair than pursuing Jin Shuriwei without success. Why? I don't understand. You won't even give me the slightest chance? I'm really not anxious for success. I just want to understand a little more. Is such a small request so excessive? Bai Hua's pale voice revealed a heart-wrenching pain. Chen Guang sighed in his heart. He knew it was time to put an end to this matter. This brother of his had already become a demon, and it was better to let him suffer for a short time than to let him suffer for a long time. Mr. Bai, to be honest, I've lived abroad for many years. I'm sure Mr. Bai knows that it's a place that advocates freedom of love. Although I'm a woman, you've also seen my androgynous attire. What I like is actually a woman. I'm sorry, but I'm a lesbian. Just like Jiang Yage in the domestic left-hand and right-hand combination. Such a lovely and lively girl is the type of girl I really like. The most heartless way to reject a person. I'm a lesbian. Brother Bai, Jingwei, why are you guys here? What are you talking about? Like me? What's going on? At this time, Jiang Yage's voice suddenly sounded from behind Chen Guang. This time, not only did Bai Hua's face turn pale, but Qin Guang's face also looked as if someone had splashed white paint from head to toe. He definitely didn't look at the almanac when he went out today. He wanted to give himself a fierce slap. Of all the people I could have mentioned, I mentioned Jiang Yage. God, are you torturing me? Lin Jingwei was also completely stunned. He was secretly cheering for Chen Guang's legendary gay killer, but the person he had casually mentioned had unexpectedly walked out from Tiana number 1 private room behind him. She even heard his random excuse to reject Bai Hua. Lin Jingwei silently raised his head and looked at the golden lights in the corridor. Brother Guang, you must have been a great prophet in your past life, right? You must be Mediv who can transform into a crow, right? Can your mouth still be saved? Thus, the whole world is in a tragedy. How are we going to act next? Can your *TTY acting still hold up? Lin Jingwei felt that the sky was about to collapse. Chapter 574. In a long corridor, the atmosphere suddenly became awkward because of Jiang Yage's words. Lin Jingwei had already given up. He already knew that Chen Guang's acting skills were lacking, but now that Jiang Yage had appeared, he had to say the wrong thing again. Now, Chen Guang was faced with such a situation. He had to maintain the cold attitude towards Bai Hua, and at the same time, he had to pretend to be happy to see Jiang Yage. After all, Jiang Yage was a famous artist in the country. Ordinary people would never have the chance to meet her. Apart from that, Chen Guang couldn't appear too excited because he was still playing the role of a cold goddess. In that case, he had to maintain his cold demeanor and then bring out an appropriate surprise. However, he had just rejected white birch, so he had to control his emotions a little. Lin Jingwei's scalp went numb just thinking about the difficulty, but he couldn't provide any substantial help to Chen Guang. He could only clench his fists in his heart. Brother Guang, come on. Brother, I support you. Bai Hua was still immersed in the pain of being rejected, but he didn't want to appear too down in the face of an acquaintance. He told himself in his heart, Bai Hua, pull yourself together. I should have thought of this setback before we met. If it wasn't for the fact that she had no interest in me, why would she keep refusing to see me? I must have performed too badly before, but it doesn't matter. Be brave. Bai Hua, bring out your intelligence and reinvigorate yourself. Sincerity can split metal and stone. You can't give up. So what if she's gay? That's only because she hasn't met an outstanding man who can move her heart. Maybe she still thinks that I'm a hedonistic second generation who only covets her beauty, so it's understandable that she would feel disgusted. After all, even I find it hard to believe. Who would have thought that I would be so emotional on our first meeting? Time will give you the answer. Bai Hua, put away your arrogance and pride. Be like a real man and use your most sincere feelings to move her bit by bit. Bai Hua was indeed worthy of being called a proud son of heaven of his generation. His mind was filled with so many thoughts in an instant. After thinking so much, only a few seconds had passed. After a brief moment of surprise, Bai Hua put away the depression on his face and put on a pleasantly surprised smile. We came here to sing. Song of Solomon. Are you in Tiana number 1 private room? I was wondering who it was that stole my private room. If it was you, then I wouldn't be surprised at all. Bai Hua's fists were clenched tightly behind his back, but on his face, he had completely regained his usual confident demeanor. Jiang Yage, on the other hand, was very sharp. As one of the best young performers, she was very familiar with the control of facial expressions. No matter how fast Bai Hua's expression changed, it couldn't be hidden from her eyes. This atmosphere isn't right, Jiang Yage thought to herself, but she wasn't in a hurry to point it out. Instead, she rolled her eyes and said, We all thought you guys weren't coming, so we asked for Tiana number 1. But that's fine. Since it's rare to meet, let's sing together. And this is... Jiang Yage turned her attention to Chen Guang, who had his back turned to her and cast a puzzled look. Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei simultaneously turned their eyes to Chen Guang. Bai Hua's eyes revealed a complicated expression. As for Lin Jingwei, well, it was already completely empty. Xiao Linzi only thought that in the next second, he would definitely be exposed. At this moment, Chun Guang was facing the most serious acting test of his life. Who was Jiang Yage? She was a movie, TV, and singing superstar. She had appeared in so many movies and TV shows that her die-hard fans couldn't even remember them all. Although she was still very young, she was already a veteran in the performing arts. She was also very familiar with him. So how could he pretend to be a woman in front of her? Wasn't this showing off in front of an expert? If he wasn't careful, he would be exposed. Not to mention that I even set such a strange state for myself. Tears streamed down Chun Guang's face. Forget it. I'll just have to act as I can. If I'm exposed, then so be it. I'll do whatever I want. He silently turned around and looked at Jiang Yage, forcing a smile on his face. Unexpectedly, at this time, Bai Hua took a step forward and said, "Solomon, let me introduce you. This is Chun Yu, a friend of mine in Jingwei. She just came back from abroad to start her own business. She's your loyal fan." As Bai Hua said this, he winked at Chun Guang. His little eyes seemed to be showing off. "Look at how considerate I am. I know you like Jiang Yage, so I help you get close to her." Chun Guang felt a chill in his heart. "Brother, I really didn't expect you to be so tolerant. This is the most ruthless homosexual killing. You just pinch your nose and accepted it all?" In the past, Chun Guang never felt that those senior executives of big companies were anything special. They all had 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 nose. I'm only worse than them because I wasn't born in a rich family. But today, he was finally convinced. With such a high family background, Bai Hua was indeed someone who could do great things. His nerves were beyond imagination, and his emotional control was so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. "I'm convinced. What should I do? How should I say it?" The corner of Chun Guang's mouth twitched. He laughed and said, "When I was studying in North Carolina, I often listened to left and right-hand songs. They're very nice." Jiang Yage looked at Chun Guang suspiciously. She subconsciously felt that this beautiful girl's expression gave her a taste of cheap. It was a bit similar to a certain person in her mind. That's impossible. This older sister is clearly a tall and elegant international supermodel. Why would I have this kind of misconception? Although she seems a bit embarrassed, it should be natural for fans to be reserved when they see their idol. But why do I feel that her smile is cheap? Is it because I miss him so much that I'm in a trance? Strange. Sure enough, as expected of an expert. With just a glance at Jiang Yage, she had doubts in her heart. But she quickly adjusted and patted her head. "Nice to meet you, Chun Yu. Come and sing with us. Lin Jingwei and Brother Bai's friends are our friends." As she spoke, she moved closer to Chun Guang and held Chun Guang's hand with a smile. She clasped it tightly between her breasts and pushed Chun Guang into Tiana #1 private room. Although this Chun Yu's hand isn't too thick, her muscles are so tight. Are these really a girl's hands? Jiang Yage's mind abruptly recalled a Hollywood action star that she had worked with in a movie before. The strange thought that popped up in her mind quickly disappeared. Indeed, some girls like to work out. They might not be as strong as men, but their muscles were just as firm. Chun Guang struggled. He didn't want to be pushed by Jiang Yage. He just wanted to run away, but fine, she clasped it too tightly. The delicate and cute Jiang Yage's chest was very firm. It was like a pair of pliers that tightly clamped Chun Guang's arm. Bai Hua saw the opportunity and felt that the situation had turned for the better. Although he was a little unwilling to see Jiang Yage holding Chun Yu's arm, he didn't have any psychological barriers. He didn't believe that gay people could play any tricks. Yes, it's rare to see each other. Let's sing a few songs together." Bai Hua also egged on from the side. At this time, Jean Shuiwei also came out. When she saw Bai Hua at the door, she was a little nervous. But when she realized that Bai Hua's attention was on the tall woman next to him, she couldn't help but ask, "This is Chun Yu." "This is Chun Yu." Bai Hua volunteered again. His voice was especially loud. Jean Shuiwei understood. Although this was her first time meeting Chun Yu, she had actually heard of this name a long time ago. After the concert, Bai Hua had deliberately told Jean Shuiwei about this matter. He didn't want the misunderstanding between the two parties to continue to deepen. At this time, Chun Guang didn't want to say anything. Why is everyone here? It's like seeing a ghost. Okay, I admit that my acting skills are terrible. I really can't act like I hate Bai Hua and love Jiang Yage in this kind of situation. It's better to keep a cold face and leave. Chen Guang first forced a smile, then said, I still have some things to do today, and I don't really like to sing. You guys have fun. I'll leave first. After saying that, he quietly tried to break free from Jiang Ye's restraints. On the other side, Jean Shuriwei rolled her eyes and looked at Bai Hua's disappointed but determined eyes. She instantly understood the situation. Brother Bai Hua was very enthusiastic about Chen Yu, but it was obvious that she didn't care about him. Currently, Brother Bai Hua was still in a state of unrequited love. Chen Yu was a rose with thorns, and it wasn't easy to pursue her. I'll help him. Jean Shuriwei quickly made a decision. It was rare for Bai Hua to finally walk out of her shadow and pursue his true happiness. Since I bumped into him, I'll try to find a way to matchmake the two of them. With this thought in mind, Jean Shuriwei also came over and hugged Chen Guang's other hand. Together with Jiang Ye, they took Chen Guang to the Heaven Harmony No. 1 private room. Lin Jingwei, who was standing behind Chen Guang, watched with wide eyes. A double sandwich attack. This attack was too fierce. Brother Guang couldn't hold on much longer. If he put up the tent in his pants at this time, he would be exposed on the spot. Today, someone would definitely die. Brother Guang and I would definitely be stabbed to death by Brother Bai Hua, and then Brother Bai Hua would commit suicide. Lin Jingwei closed his eyes and clasped his hands together. He secretly prayed, God, quickly come and save me and Brother Guang. Help me. Lin Jingwei's guess was right. At this time, Chen Guang was in great pain and happiness. The terrifying attack from the left and right was like a tsunami crashing into his mind. Jean Shuriwei's breasts were a little fuller than Jiang Ye's, and she had a better understanding of Chen Guang's desire to run away at this time, so she clamped her breasts harder than Jiang Ye's. The tightness and fullness of her breasts, which were tightly pressed against her body, brought about a strong sense of touch, were even clearer. The most insane thing was that Jean Shuriwei used one hand to press Chen Guang's arm against her chest. Her other hand grabbed his palm and pressed it directly on her lower abdomen. The flat abdomen, without any excess flesh, gave Chen Guang an amazing sensation. The devilish temptation was teasing his heart bit by bit. His face was still forced to maintain a cold and silent expression. However, there was a strange flush of blood on his face. This was because there was a flame burning in the depths of his heart. Not good. The old man's primitive power was about to go out of control. It was completely out of control. Keep for me. Namo Amit Ba. Buddha sits in the heart. Wine and meat pass through the intestines. No matter how the wind blows, I will stand firm. All right, this mnemonic chant was useless. The self-torture of ice and fire finally caused him to lose control of one of his weapons. Feeling that a certain part of his lower body was gradually withstanding the small pressure, Chen Guang only had one thought in his mind. It's over. I'm such a terrible actor. Everything that happened in such a short period of time was too sudden. At this moment, he had completely forgotten about the external cultivation method in the painting scroll. His mind was filled with sorrow for his current situation. He subconsciously used his left hand, which was not completely grabbed by Jiang Ye, to gently press down on the satchel hanging on his left shoulder. Inside the satchel was his heavenly holy grail. Then, he entered the world in the cup. Time stopped. Light flowed. When he came back to his senses, he was already standing in the middle of Cloud City. Liuli's computer seemed to be gone. She was sitting cross-legged on the ground with her brows tightly furrowed. He had no idea what she was practicing or what the hell she was doing. Chen Guang looked at her silently. He was completely speechless. He felt that he was extremely unlucky today. His mind was already filled with the painting scroll, but he still failed at the last moment. The moment he failed, he was pulled back by the heavenly holy grail. He felt that his life was simply a comedy that had been performed to the extreme. Just as a certain great master once said, the essence behind a true comedy was actually a tragedy. The heavenly holy grail's world in the cup seemed to always be able to catch him off guard with unexpected methods. The 3-second attack last time was not even as good as 3 seconds this time. This unlucky world in the cup's ability to grasp the weak points was unparalleled. Chen Guang silently looked up at the blue sky with white clouds. He thought to himself, what's the use of me practicing the strongest cross-dressing skill in history? At this moment, Lily seemed to have sensed his arrival. She opened her eyes slightly and glanced at him. She covered her mouth and laughed. She had completely failed. Chen Guang looked down at his clothes and touched his hair. Damn, he still had the same cross-dressing look after coming in. You actually look pretty good like this. Do you want to know what world in the cup is this time? Liu Li chuckled. Chen Guang waved his hand. All right, you don't have to say any more. I understand. I accept my fate. Looking at his lifeless appearance, Liu Li rolled her eyes and said mischievously, the world of women's clothing. Damn, can I not say it out loud? Chen Guang hammered his chest again and again. His heart hurt so much that he wanted to die. Liu Li shook her head. That won't do. Good news has to be said so that everyone can be happy. I don't want to talk to you. What were you doing just now? Why did I vaguely see something fall from your body and connect to the floor? Knowing that she never said anything nice, Chen Guang simply didn't care about what the next world in the cup was. Anyway, he would deal with it as it came. Liu Li also acted shamelessly. I don't want to talk to you, so I won't tell you. The two didn't talk for long before a familiar and terrifying suction descended from the sky. Chen Guang's head was sucked away. After Chen Guang disappeared, Lu Minghua's voice came from afar. Sister Liu Li, it's too much to tease him like this. Liu Li chuckled. Isn't this where the fun lies? Speaking of which, why don't you show any signs of transforming? Lu Minghua sighed. Don't talk about it. My roots have already grown for almost 10,000 miles under this cloud city, but I still haven't seen the bottom. I'm sinking deeper and deeper. Sister Liu Li, that's a part of your soul fusing into the holy cup, but this flower's body has grown into the holy cup. Why are we two sisters so unlucky? Now, I've become a vessel for his faith. I'm really tired. I feel like my body is about to overflow from being stuffed to the point of bursting. Tui, talk properly. Don't be so vulgar. Didn't you do it yourself? Who asked you to eat his hair? Didn't I get hurt by you too? Chapter 575. Liu Li was scolding Lu Ming when she suddenly froze. A rather strange expression appeared on her face. Lu Ming chuckled. It's coming, the meat toilet from the women's clothing mountain range. Liu Li glared fiercely in Lu Ming's direction. You are the meat toilet. Your whole flower is a meat toilet. Shut up. This emperor is a mirror this time. Lu Ming asked curiously. Mirror? Isn't it acting? Why is it a mirror? Liu Li really didn't have the mood to explain to her, because Chen Guang's special training in the cup world had already begun. On the other hand, Chen Guang plunged out after passing through the long space-time tunnel. This time, he didn't hit the water surface, but fiercely hit the mirror glass that was as hard as iron, making him dizzy and confused. He almost got a concussion. He staggered up and sat on the ground for a long time. He looked around but couldn't see anything clearly. He only felt that everything he saw was spinning and his head was buzzing. After a long time, he finally came back to his senses. Damn it, I forgot to fill the cup with water this time. There was only one feeling in his head, pain. Sigh, why is my life so bitter? I just had to mix into the women's clothing world. How can I erase this stain in my life? If my father knows that his son has become a woman's clothing fetish, he will definitely beat me to death, right? With such a desperate mood, Chen Guang looked around. He thought that waiting for him would be countless dazzling women's clothing, but it was empty. There was nothing in the round cup world with a diameter of 1 kilometer. What's going on? Chen Guang tried to take 2 steps and looked around carefully, but it was really empty. He rubbed his eyes. Is there anyone around? No matter who it is, tell me what the hell is going on. Stop howling. This time the cup world is testing your acting skills, not your unlucky cross-dressing. Lu Li's voice suddenly rang out from the bottom of his heart, making Chen Guang so moved that his eyes brimmed with tears. After being tricked by the cup countless times, he finally gave it a try. It was a sad thing to lose the opportunity to practice the external kung fu of the dancing volume. However, the world in the cup changed from cross-dressing to acting, which he feared the most, and brought him back from hell to the human world. Even if he couldn't go to heaven, he should be very happy. Come to think of it, the judgment of the Holy Grail was not unreasonable. He had already put on this outfit long ago, but the moment before he came in, his mind was thinking about how to play the role he was currently playing, how to show his excellent acting skills, and how to become a professional actor so that he could deal with the extremely awkward situation he was currently in. On top of that, he had been pondering over the script whenever he had the chance. His current state of mind, coupled with the accumulation of his thoughts over the past few days, caused him to crave acting skills the most at that moment. Chen Guang had always thought that the Holy Grail was tricking him, but the Holy Grail had never failed to capture his desire and obsession. It's great that you're not cross-dressing. Chen Guang patted his chest. Oh my God, you don't know how scared I was just now. Don't just rejoice. This acting test isn't that easy to pass. Lu Li's tone was solemn. Chen Guang was suddenly alarmed. What do you mean? People will die? Yes, people will die, Lu Li replied. Chen Guang simply didn't believe it. Stop joking, it's just acting. If you don't act well, you'll die. Lu Li spat. Isn't it common for people to die in a play? But that's fake death. But this is the world in the cup. If you can't act to the satisfaction of the Holy Grail, you'll really die. For example, the prop gun will become a real gun. This time, Chen Guang began to panic. If you have something to say, then say it. Don't shout about fighting and killing. It's useless talking to this empress. Go talk to the mirror. Lu Li chuckled and didn't move again. After a short while, a mirror suddenly appeared in front of Chen Guang. It was about the height of a person and looked like a full-length changing mirror. However, Chen Guang was on full alert. Lu Li had already said that people would die. Who knew if a gun would suddenly jump out from the mirror? After waiting for a while, there was still no movement. The image in the originally misty white mirror suddenly became clear. Who is this? Why is she so beautiful? Chen Guang frowned as he looked at the overly beautiful tall woman in the mirror. Then, he turned around and vomited. Damn, a mirror is a mirror. It's me in it, okay? He quickly tore off the wig, then ran to the corner of the world in the cup to find a small puddle and wash his face red. He also took off his slightly tight shirt. Only then did he return to the mirror. This time, the big bald man in the mirror was much more pleasing to the eye. This time, the world in the cup is a world of acting. There are a total of 3 major stages. The first stage is basic training. Chen Guang was happy, as expected of the considerate world in the cup. That's right. How could it be so heartless? From the beginning, they should start from the basics. The second stage is intensive training. Chen Guang's smile became more and more brilliant. After the basics was the strengthening. It was very reasonable and humane. Lu Li must be talking nonsense. It's just practicing acting. Even if it's a line in the sky, it won't be life-threatening. The third stage, death combat. F*CK. Forget it, there's no need to say anymore. The moment he heard the name of the third stage, he knew it wasn't a joke. The old man admitted defeat. The so-called actor was at 70% talent and 30% hard work. It was obvious that Chen Guang didn't have much talent. Otherwise, even as a beginner, he wouldn't have ruined the entire scene by playing a small role on the set. In terms of acting, his talent was in the negatives. However, the skills produced by the Heavenly Holy Grail couldn't be discounted. They had to be the strongest in history. Therefore, he had to use countless hours of hard work to reach the standard of the Heavenly Holy Grail to make up for his negative talent. He silently sat in front of the mirror and looked at himself in it. He thought to himself, what's the basic training like? Will the reflection in the mirror suddenly open its mouth and give a lecture? Just as he was thinking about this, he saw the reflection in the mirror suddenly move. The hand of the person in the mirror suddenly reached out of the mirror. When it retracted, it was holding a thick book, as thick as the Oxford Dictionary. The next moment, the person in the mirror suddenly swung his arm and threw the Oxford Dictionary out of the mirror. Fortunately, Chen Guang reacted quickly and caught it. He took a look at the cover, Stanislavski and the Experiential Performing Arts. After all this time, this mirror was just a bookshelf. Did you have to be so domineering when you passed the book to me? Please read the entire text. and practice your self-training in front of the mirror. The electronic voice of the heavenly Holy Grail sounded again. Studying such an obscure book was undoubtedly extremely difficult for an ordinary person like Chen Guang, who didn't want to be an actor. However, this was the world in the cup. He had no other choice but to study. Even if it was disgusting, boring, or even breaking down, he would just take things as they came. Studying was much more interesting than sharpening pencils. He had to thank the heavenly Holy Grail's special ability to seal his emotions. Even though he knew that he was disgusted to the point of wanting to vomit under normal circumstances, he still easily finished the book. It took him about 3 years. During this period, he even had to make fixed expressions in front of the mirror from time to time, according to the performing arts training methods recorded in the tome. For example, happiness, anger, loneliness, depression, and so on. Towards the end, the emotions became more and more complicated. For example, tears of joy, sorrow after extreme joy, or embarrassment and anger after receiving bad news, only to find out that the messenger had made a mistake. In Stanislavski's system, an excellent performing artist must learn to have absolute control over their emotions. When performing, they must become one with the character they were about to portray. In this kind of performance, it could be said that the actor was above the character. It was more like the actor had completely immersed himself in the character and pushed the boat along with the current. This kind of performance seemed complicated and unfathomable, but in fact, it could also be learned through professional training. A beginner actor with outstanding acting talent would need about 3 months to learn all the methods and techniques recorded in the tome and reach the barely qualified standard. However, it took Chen Guang 3 years. 3 years without sleep, rest, food, or drink, and tireless. Finally closing the thick tome, Chen Guang watched the book slowly disassemble in his hands. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. The heavenly Holy Grail's electronic voice sounded in his ears. Stanislavski and the experiential performing arts completed. It wasn't easy. He let out a long sigh. The basic training should be over. The electronic voice sounded again. Basic training completed 1%. Chen Guang's eyes widened. He was completely dumbfounded. It took him so long to finish a book, and now you're telling him that it was only 1%. Without giving him a chance to redress his grievances, the man in the mirror tossed him an even thicker tome. Chen Guang caught it and read it. He could only curse at the man's mother and father. I've worked so hard to learn the superficial theories of the experiential school, and now you want me to learn the expressive school. How inhumane. Comprehensive analysis of an actor's dual personality. The artistic techniques of the expressive school. In the theory of the expressive school, the performer had 2 selves. One was the actor's soul, and the other was the actor's voice and body. In the process of performing arts, the first self, which was the actor's soul, would always remain in an absolutely calm state. However, through long-term training, the performance of the external second self could be expanded to the extreme, turning the second self into clay in the hands of the artist, which could be molded into any shape at will. Using a calm mind to control the body and voice, the performing arts could be displayed externally. This was because the performing arts itself was something that was shown to the outside world. The expressive school and the experiential school were 2 completely opposite theories. Although they were both performing arts, they were as incompatible as water and fire. Chen Guang, who had just been influenced by the experiential school, suddenly switched to the expressive school. This was torture for him. Fortunately, he could not break down in the realm of the heavenly Holy Grail, and he had endless time. Laugh. Laugh loudly. Laugh crazily. Laugh implicitly. She laughed hysterically out of anger. Cry. Cry angrily. Cry of suppressed sadness. Cry of ecstasy and uncontrollable emotions. Unlike the experiential school, which focused on emotions, the expressive school's training methods mainly focused on the release of completely external emotions. In the process of training in front of the mirror, Chen Guang was required to have the exact same expression as the person in the mirror. Even the expression in his eyes and the voice that came out of his mouth could not be the slightest bit different. The same went for his body language. From simple to difficult, from static to dynamic. After finishing this secret of the expressive school, he finally understood the strengths of Jiang Yage and Jean Shuriwei. No matter what their personalities were like, at least in terms of acting, the two were simply impeccable. Just like Jiang Yage, even if she was secretly happy about something, in front of the camera, she was a heroine who cried hysterically after losing her loved ones. Another 3 years passed, and Chen Guang passed. 2 years later, he finished another form of expression, the past and present of the American method. The method was a deeper extension of the experiential school. In addition to showing the state of the character at the time of the event, the performer also had to completely create the character's personality and life, so that the character completely ignored the camera. On the stage, or in a shooting scene, it was like living in a film and television work, using a natural way to live the story. For example, before Robert De Niro acted in Taxi Driver, he really drove a taxi for a period of time and experienced the life of a taxi driver. Then, Chen Guang entered a sad, endless cycle. Experiential school, expressive school, and method school. These 3 forms of artistic expression alternated. After 33 terrifying cycles, Chen Guang finally pushed the basic training to 99%. Looking at the last book that was thrown out of the hands of the person in the mirror, the 4th performing art. Compared with the 99 tomes that he had read before, this last book was very thin, about the thickness of a thumb. But when Chen Guang held this book, he was so excited that his hand was shaking. Finally, he was about to become a wife. This unlucky basic training was really not easy. Even though he gradually got the feeling of reading, and his speed of reading became faster and faster, almost 100 years had passed. He felt that he had changed a lot. He had never liked acting, and now he hated it even more. Like an ocean, a vast amount of acting knowledge was stored in his brain. Although he might have learned along the way, and it was impossible for his brain to really remember that much, there were some things that did not need to be memorized. This crazy cramming training had brought him spiritual and physical sublimation and change, and he had found a special feeling for the art of acting from the bottom of his heart. But with his current state, he might be able to become a qualified actor after he went out, but he could not reach the level of the strongest actor in history. Now, this booklet in front of him, the 4th performing art, was the last shackle for him to break through and become the strongest actor in history in one fell swoop. It was a crazy method that had never appeared in the entire history of the world of performing arts. Through the complete resonance of the soul and the body, one's soul and body would be completely hypnotized. After completely understanding the script, one would create a complete world in one's mind, not only including the past and present lives of the character that one was playing, but also the past and present lives of the other characters. Under the camera, one would become the master of the world. It was similar to the method that Luli used to hypnotize him to become the best actor last time, but it was of a higher level. It was to completely hypnotize oneself to become the character in the play, turning acting into real life. Chen Guang took a deep breath and slowly flipped open the stairway to heaven. The strongest, best actor in history had finally passed the most primitive stage of accumulation and taken the most important step. Chapter 576. This, the 4th performing art, was not so much a method of acting, but an extreme method of self-hypnosis. The accumulation of the previous 99 books meant that Chen Guang, who wanted to practice the painting volume, needed to complete the external practice in advance, so that his body could reach the standard to stimulate the internal force. At this time, he had spent almost 100 years accumulating the knowledge of the 3 performing art methods to the extreme so that he could master the unprecedented performing art through the school of the world produced by the heavenly Holy Grail. He did not expect that it would take him almost 50 years to study this thin book. Different from the previous 99 books, the last school of the world seemed thin, but its content was far richer than the previous 10 books. Every small detail mentioned in the book was a gem, and only with great effort could he make any progress. Now he finally understood the stupid bird flies early, and he was especially stupid, so he had to be very early. Counting on his fingers, he finally understood why no one had been able to try the so-called school of the world so far. Thinking about himself, it took him 100 years to prepare, another 50 years to take the last step, and then there was intensive training and death combat. Even if his talent as an actor was really terrible, if it were an ordinary actor, it would take at least 30 or 40 years of learning. How long was an actor's normal acting career? They wanted to learn this move, but before they could even learn it, they were already halfway into their coffins. Therefore, people often said that old actors were the accumulation of life experience and life principles brought by the growth of age. It could indeed make the acting skills of an old actor who maintained a good mental state become more and more exquisite under the tempering of time. For example, Nanny Rong in Princess Pearl, which was once popular all over the country. After so many years, she, a supporting character who didn't have many scenes, was like a pot of old wine, becoming more and more remembered. In contrast, many people couldn't remember what the real villain, the Empress, looked like. In short, no one could learn what Chen Guang was doing. Even if he went out and restored the fourth performing art in its original form, no one could learn it because they did not have the time and energy to do so. As he slowly closed the book, he closed his eyes and rested for a long time. Then he let out a long breath, as if he was a martial artist in a state of enlightenment. A turbid breath escaped from his mouth. The fourth performing arts in his hand, however, did not vanish in a nothingness like the previous 99 books. Instead, it slowly floated in the air and collapsed into glittering words that darted toward his skull. Chen Guang was caught off guard by this sudden change. He stood on the spot with his mouth wide open. His eyes were also widened as he looked at those bizarre things drilling into his mind, but he couldn't do anything about it. After maintaining this state for 3 days and 3 nights, it finally came to an end. Chen Guang shook his head, feeling a little swollen. He casually tried to recall, and the entire book Part 4 appeared in his mind. He could even easily recall the pages, lines, and words. Furthermore, it wasn't as simple as just memorizing the book. Every bit of correct understanding he had when he was studying the book also appeared in his mind, as if it had been engraved into his mind. I've finally experienced the true might of the force-feeding method of teaching. Chen Guang was filled with emotion. This was the correct way to open the transcending heaven holy grail. The last time he entered the Sea of Moments was just a beautiful accident. The overly high level of the 8th realm of the divine immortal heavenly cup made the language master training from last time unconventional, just like the first time he entered the Sea of Moments. This time, the acting world was the normal state that the realm of the divine immortal heavenly cup should be in. It was much stronger than the pure physical training of the divine immortal heavenly cup. It could even force this kind of knowledge into his brain. Basic training complete. Intensive training about to begin. As the electronic voice finished, the mirror in front of him gradually grew larger, turning into a square surface that was 200 meters in length and width. It stood upright on the ground like a giant screen. What is it this time? Chen Guang looked over curiously. The next moment, a familiar music suddenly rang in his ears. Looking at the majestic and domineering lion roaring in the golden film, Chen Guang was puzzled. Wasn't this the standard opening of a movie produced by the now-defunct Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer? More than 4 hours later, as the ending song of Gone with the Wind came to an end, Chen Guang finally felt the benefits of this intensive training. It was actually watching a movie. He was overjoyed. The heavens really have the virtue of cherishing life. They know that I'm really too bored. That's right. As the current generation's best actor, how could he only focus on himself? He had to observe and speculate about other people's works. Only by watching and thinking more could he continuously consolidate his acting skills. Even if the actors in the movie might not have the acting skills of his current world-class actor level, every top-class actor would always have a highlight in their life. In these highlight moments, These actors would display their skills to the extreme, and they might not lose to Chen Guang's world-class actor. It was just a pity that their highlight moments could not be maintained forever. Intensive training completion rate, 1 in 30,000. He had to watch a total of 30,000 movies. It was a small case. Strange. Are there so many classic movies in the world? Chen Guang muttered. Forget it. Anyway, the intensive training was just watching movies, so there was no difference watching more or less. Wait, what was this? Looking at the terrifying 5 words in front of him, Chen Guang felt that his worldview was about to collapse. Fuchin Mountain Dwelling. Anyone who had seen it would understand that this was an ultimate masterpiece that was jointly starred by several best actors, dedicated to the vast number of movie fans. It was a super godly film that could refresh the audience's worldview, outlook on life, and sexual orientation. Chen Guang only hated himself for jinxing it. Why did he have to question the number of classic movies? Now, the second movie was such a heavy-tasting masterpiece, and it also set the tone for the rest of his miserable life. There is nothing more painful than this in life. As a new top-class Best Actor, his understanding of the performing arts had reached a height that ordinary people could not reach, but he had to endure the torture of terrible movies to the extreme. Unlike ordinary audiences, who could leave if they were unhappy, they could also play with their mobile phones, read novels, chat on WeChat, or simply click across in the upper right corner of the screen. Although he was already disgusted to death, he still had to stare at the huge private screen in front of him with his eyes wide open. The feeling was so sour that it was difficult to write down. What was originally thought to be a leisurely movie trip turned into a painful torture of going to heaven and going to hell one moment. He finally deeply understood the true meaning of the so-called intensive training. One moment, he watched a classic movie, trying to figure out how others played the role, and the next moment, he watched an extremely terrible movie to see what a terrible performance looked like and take warning. Fuchin Mountain Dwelling was just an appetizer, villain angel, where are we going, Dad? And so on were just desserts. The most terrible thing was that some unknown director from some unknown country took a deceptive script that he wrote and found a group of unknown actors to shoot all kinds of strange bad movies. There were many bad Chinese movies, and English movies were also on par. Spanish, German, Italian, and other small languages could not escape. After all, there were only a few good classic movies. More than half of the 30,000 movies were these bad movies. The Heavenly Holy Grail's intensive training was to let Chen Guang experience all the bad movies in the world and see through the world of mortals before he could become a Buddha. But in the end, he still made it. During this period, he fainted a few times, and even the Holy Grail's emotional blockade was almost broken by him. When he heard the words, "intensive training is over, the death battle is about to begin," he actually felt a sense of relief. This intensive training was clearly the most fatal thing. The towering mirror in front of him slowly moved again. It fell down bit by bit, like a pool of water on the ground. First round of the death battle, participate in to live and play the role of Su Fuge. As the electronic voice fell, the mirror on the ground gradually lit up like a 3D projection. Characters, equipment, and even houses slowly appeared on the mirror. This was a movie set that had been completely replicated. The young old strategist was yelling loudly. The equally young Gu Guangtou still had some hair back then, but his hairline was slightly higher. He was holding a script and arguing fiercely with a group of people in a corner. This scene looked vaguely illusory, but the effect was already far better than all the 3D projections in the world so far. Filming is about to begin. Please completely overlap with the main actor and complete the filming at the same time. The complexity of the Heavenly Holy Grail's world was far greater than the Heavenly Holy Grail's. The electronic voice of the Heavenly Holy Grail was also much more diligent than before, and the training instructions were also more detailed and accurate. Chen Guang immediately understood the training mode of this third round of the death battle. It was to let him personally participate in the filming process of these classic movies. Just like in some variety shows, he had to face an oncoming wall and put his body in an appropriate position to pass through the various holes in the wall. If he failed, he would crash into the water. Of course, what he was going to do now was much more complicated than passing through the wall, but the principle was the same. Standing forward, his body completely overlapped with Guangto's. Feeling the shimmering projection floating around him, Chen Guang waited solemnly. He had trained his soldiers for 100 years, and now was the time. That's right, what did death mean? 5 minutes later, lying on the ground and feeling his broken body slowly reforming like the liquid robot in Terminator, Chen Guang deeply understood what the word death meant. If he made a slight mistake in his performance, perhaps his expression, perhaps his body language, or perhaps his eyebrows were not raised high enough, he would explode without any warning. It was as if a bomb had detonated in his stomach, and he had really exploded. If I die like this, I might as well find a gun and shoot my head. 1 death, 99 deaths remaining. When a number of deaths reaches 100, the Redeemer will truly die. Chen Guang felt a chill down his spine. It seemed that the heavenly Holy Grail was serious this time. Chapter 577. Large drops of cold sweat rolled down from his temples. Seeing the 3D projection beside him gradually dim, Chen Guang's rapid breathing gradually calmed down. It was too scary. It was like a nightmare. It was only the first scene of The Live, but he made 8 NGs and blew up 8 times. In the beginning, he was still in a very casual state when he acted as Gubaldi's highlight. After all, he thought that Gubaldi's acting skills at that time were still in the budding stage, and could not be compared to him, who had already mastered his world-class acting skills. However, the cruel reality hit him hard, and made him realize that no matter how rich his theoretical knowledge was, it was just a castle in the air without the test of practical experience. Performing arts is both acting and life. Acting was like life, and life was like acting. Gubaldi might have been immature when he played Su Fugue, but when he brought out the state of living in the film, it was not compromised at all. When Chen Guang tried to use a relaxed and casual attitude to completely replicate it, he would always make some big or small mistakes in his performance. Unlike other people who had the chance to make an NG after making a mistake, Chen Guang, who was now in a life and death battle, would blow up as soon as he made a mistake from the inside out. He died miserably. Suddenly, he did not even have time to fear death, and his whole body turned into countless pieces on the ground. It was finally over. But this was only the first scene of the first movie. At this moment, Chen Guang truly felt the threat of death in the heavenly Holy Grail. Was 99 chances to come back to life really a lot? At first, he really thought it was a lot, but in the blink of an eye, he had used up 8 times. He did not even know how many more movies he had to act in. In this situation where he could not see how long the road ahead of him was, every time he faked his death, he was one step closer to real death. Chen Guang did not think that the heavenly Holy Grail was joking with him. After a short while, a new set projection appeared in front of him. It was the second scene of To Live. The detestable heavenly Holy Grail did not give him any time to breathe. Warning, warning, the second scene is about to begin. Redeemer, please overlap with the main actor and participate in the filming at the same time. Otherwise, you'll die in 10 seconds. Chen Guang did not feel tired at all, but he felt a sense of exhaustion all over his body. Gritting his teeth, he forced himself to stand up, moving to stand completely overlapping with Ge Guangtu's projection. Taking a deep breath, his expression became serious. His tired eyes slowly regained focus, and his face no longer had the slightest bit of carelessness. Slowly closing his eyes, when Chen Guang opened them again, his eyes were filled with the unique gaze of Su Fugue, a person who had lived in a specific period of time and was currently experiencing a different kind of tragic fate. There was a hint of stubbornness in his murky eyes, and under the stubbornness, there was also a hint of weakness. Behind the weakness, there was a hint of anger and unwillingness. Chen Guang successfully substituted himself into the world of To Live. He became Su Fugue, but 15 minutes later, he still exploded. Lying on the ground in a daze, Chun Guang felt his face slowly sticking back together under the tearing pain. He was completely at a loss. Impossible. I've already perfectly captured the state of the world faction. There can't be any problems with my acting. Why did it explode so suddenly? You have to give me a convincing reason. He could not understand it, no matter how hard he thought about it. But in this world within a cup, no one could give him an answer. Although the heavenly Holy Grail was considerate, it was not considerate enough to tell him exactly what he did wrong. The emotionless heavenly Holy Grail's logic in judging success or failure was extremely simple. If it was right, it was right, and if it was wrong, it was wrong. As for why it was right or wrong, only the Redeemer himself could figure it out. In short, if he exploded, there must be something wrong, or else he wouldn't have exploded. The world within a cup of the heavenly Holy Grail would definitely not make a mistake. After another 5 explosions, Chun Guang finally managed to get through this scene. Although this explosion was slightly less than the previous one, he was even more nervous. He had faked his death for a total of 14 times and only managed to shoot 2 scenes of To Live. He was terrified and broke out in cold sweat. Chun Guang didn't know how many scenes there were in this movie, but he was sure that if he didn't find the problem, he would definitely die in To Live. The 3D projection moved slowly, finally giving him some time to recover. Chun Guang's mind was frantically trying to figure out what the problem was. That's right, it must be that my acting skills are still at the theoretical level. As long as I continue to strengthen my practical training, the situation will definitely slowly improve. After about 10 sets of scenes, Chun Guang beat his chest and stamped his feet. What practice makes perfect? It's all a lie. He had already shot 10 sets of scenes, but why did he still explode without any warning? He still exploded several times in one scene. Although the frequency gradually decreased from an average of 5 to 3 or 4 times, the situation was still like drinking poison to quench his thirst, and he was slowly walking towards death. After another 5 scenes, he had already used the number of deaths 55 times. At this time, Azure, who had been pretending to be a mirror, couldn't sit still anymore. Hey, little brat, don't cause trouble. Can you be more serious? I'm not joking with you. You're really going to die. Chun Guang pinched his nose. Nonsense. Do I need you to remind me? I don't want to die either, all right? But I really don't know what's going on. I'm already very serious, and I'm even using all my strength. Azure said anxiously, don't just focus on using brute force. Think of a way. Use ingenuity, all right? Chun Guang spread his hands. Am I not using ingenuity? I've already practiced the 4th type of acting art, the world school, to the extreme, all right? If this isn't ingenuity, then what is it? I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I have to get back to work. Chun Guang waved his hand. He had thought that Azure would always be so insensitive, but now it seemed that she also had times when she was afraid. Wait, the more she was afraid, didn't it mean that the old man was really in a bad situation? F***CK. The more he thought about it, the more despair he felt. Even Lioli was afraid. Another 10 sets of shots were shot, a total of 25 explosions, a total of 80 explosions, and there were only 19 chances left. Azure was completely unable to settle down. When Chun Guang was in the process of gluing again, she jumped out and impatiently communicated with Chun Guang. I really can't. If this goes on, everyone will be finished. Seriously, if I go too far, you can't protect my life? Chun Guang asked doubtfully. Azure was silent for a moment, and then said with a bitter smile, I could have, but recently I've used all my divine power in other areas, and I can't move it back for a while. I didn't expect that a mere acting world would be so difficult. This Empress has miscalculated. Unfortunately, this Empress knows nothing about this matter, or else I could give you some advice. Now, I can only rely on you. Chun Guang sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 578. How about this? I will use my divine power to buy you 2 hours of free time. Think about it carefully. Do your best. I'm counting on you. Don't let me down. With that, Lioli's voice gradually disappeared, and the projection on the ground also dimmed. Liuli used her remaining divine power to interfere with the training process of the world in the cup and forced Chen Guang to pause. Fortunately, a strand of her soul had fused with the heavenly Holy Grail, and she had transformed into the mirror in the world in the cup. Otherwise, she wouldn't even be able to pause. Chen Guang sat on the spot like a stone Buddha. Facing the threat of death for the first time, he truly valued the so-called 3,000 worlds test of the heavenly Holy Grail. This time, Liuli couldn't protect him. He could only rely on himself. He scratched his head furiously, thinking hard. What was the problem? Was I not proficient enough in the world school? That was obviously impossible. He didn't learn from nothing, but through the accumulation of knowledge, and then with great difficulty comprehending the world school of performing arts. In other words, he first comprehended the Tao, and then put it into practice. Up until now, he had acted in more than 20 sets of scenes, and every time he was completely focused, not daring to slack off. He should have been completely familiar with the routines of this art of performing arts. He even felt that he had lived in the original work and perfectly interpreted the artistic conception and life that the director and the original author wanted to portray. Even some of the deeper meanings that the author wrote that ordinary people didn't understand were filled in after he comprehended the entire worldview. Wait a minute. Chen Guang suddenly realized that he seemed to have grasped the problem. He realized that he had been going in the wrong direction from the beginning. The Holy Grail required him to completely replicate Baldi Ji's performance, where he played the role of Su Fugue, not to replicate another Su Fugue. He didn't want to act as Su Fugue, but the current Su Fugue Ge. He shouldn't be constructing Su Fugue's world, but Ge Baldi's world. Ge Baldi's acting skills, situation, and other factors when he acted in To Live was the worldview that belonged to Ge Baldi, and that was what he really needed. At this moment, Chen Guang felt enlightened. So it turned out that his acting might be formidable, but he had gone off topic. From the very beginning, he had been heading in the wrong direction. Of course, he was wrong again and again. After waking up from the shock, Chen Guang stood up straight. At the same time, the 3D projection on the ground gradually appeared again. It turned out that 2 hours had passed while he was in deep thought. Liuli's voice was filled with extreme exhaustion. How is it? Have you found the reason? Chen Guang nodded lightly, and with extreme confidence, he overlapped with Ge Guangtou again. And I understand. Watch me next. Death combat completion 1%. Comprehended drama within drama. As the 3D projection's old strategist shouted the word finished in a disappointed and relieved tone, Chen Guang's terrifying To Live journey finally came to a successful end. The post-production editing and special effects obviously had nothing to do with him. He sighed heavily. He was so excited that he was drenched in sweat. Thank God, he had come to his senses at the critical moment and finally found the right direction. But even so, he still had to leave the scene twice in the entire filming process. Maybe it was because of the fatigue from the continuous filming, or maybe it was because he had read too much in Ge Guangtou. Until now, Chen Guang only had 17 chances to revive. Perhaps sensing his fatigue, the Holy Grail gave him half an hour of rest after filming, allowing him to completely separate himself from Ge Guangtou's worldview. For the second film, Chen Guang had to act as Marlon Brando in The Godfather 1. The entire process was perfect, and he did not explode once. For the third film, Leslie Chung in Farewell, My Concubine, he exploded twice and was only left with 15 chances to revive. The number of revivals was decreasing. Even if he had found a way, the threat of death was getting closer and closer. Only then did Chen Guang finally understand the true meaning of death combat. Different from the 3 performing arts, performance school, experience school, and method school, his brand new world school had another drawback. After self-hypnosis, he constructed a complete worldview, which was too grand and realistic. It was difficult to get into character, and even more difficult to get out of character. If he did not go through this continuous crazy training of getting into character and out of character, it was easy to not be able to get out of character in time after getting into character and living character. This death training was indeed to improve Chen Guang's proficiency in the World School of Acting, But after the first film to live, the remaining 99 films only had one purpose, and that was for him to master the technique of getting out of character. In the world in the cup where emotions were sealed, through this seemingly stupid and boring repetitive training, he was able to continuously form a state that was more at his fingertips. Otherwise, when he went out, he would be completely stuck in character and unable to get out. If that happened, he would rather die than live. According to normal development, 99 chances of resurrection corresponded to the shooting of 100 films, which might be just enough. But because Chun Guang began to go astray, there were only 15 chances left when he only shot the third film. Liuli gradually became nervous, but she did not dare to make a sound and disturb Chun Guang in the slightest. Now, although Chun Guang was only acting, the situation was getting more and more serious. Even Lu Ming, who was in Yunqing, felt the heavy atmosphere. Her two huge flower leaves were clenched tightly like fists. Although she did not like Chun Guang at this time, she also silently whispered in her heart, "Chun Guang, do your best." If Chun Guang really died in the cup, it would really be over. At this time, the pressure on Chun Guang's shoulders was not small. He did not need to think about others, and he did not want to die. Some people crumbled under the pressure, while others performed better than usual. Chun Guang used to think that he was the former, but when he really came to this life and death juncture, he found that his potential was actually stronger than he thought. Humans just couldn't live too comfortably. They had to push themselves a little bit to find out where their potential and limits were. Chun Guang, who had spent 3 years in university in a daze, at this moment seemed to have returned to the state of the last sprint 2 or 3 months before the college entrance examination, when he said that he would concentrate and not be distracted. In the blink of an eye, dozens of years had passed in the mountains. Among the 100 films, some films were shot quickly, and the shooting time was only 2 months, but some were so long that it made people's hair stand on end, and it often took several years. On average, the shooting time for each film was about 3 or 4 months. After the influence of the 100 films, it had taken nearly 30 years. Of course, this was an absolute amount of time. Chun Guang, who had never stopped resting, had no concept of time at all. He only cared about carefully and attentively playing the role that he needed to play. At the same time, he was counting with his fingers how many more chances he had left before he would die. His concentration potential had been completely squeezed out. Every time he faked his death, his condition would improve a little. The increasing mental pressure and the increasingly grim situation actually made his condition even more perfect. By the time he died for the 98th time, he had gone through another 5 films before exploding once. By the time he died for the 99th time, and the next step would be the endless abyss, he had even forgotten about his fear of death. He was only left with absolute calmness, and he went through the last 10 films in one go. Even Lu Minghua, who had always disliked Chun Guang, sighed and said to Liuli, "This guy has really exceeded my expectations. In the past, he didn't have such a state of mind, did he? He was much more impetuous than he is now." Liuli, whose soul had turned into a mirror and was immersed in the world of acting, was a bit slow to react in the body of the Emperor in Cloud City, but her eyes were already full of tears. She nodded slightly and said, "This is probably the level that he really wants to pursue." Watching the time and space tunnel in front of her gradually open, and the soul that had turned into a mirror was slowly released, Liuli wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with her arm calmly and put on an angry expression. Light swirled, and Chun Guang appeared in Cloud City again. Before he had the time to show off his magnificent feat of passing the last 10 stages in a row, Liuli had already spat all over his face. Are you stupid or what? Can't you understand such a simple logic? You've been blinded for nothing for 80 times. Are you trying to scare me to death? Idiot, idiot, idiot. What a loser who can't accomplish anything, but spoils everything. Liuli cursed. Chun Guang was losing ground again and again. Even the Emperor had spit? And why is your spit so strong? It hurts when it hits my face. Fortunately, my face is thick, and I can take it. With a shake of his body, he returned to the outside world. His hands were still held tightly by Jin and Jiang. who were sending him to the private room of Heaven Harmony #1. Chen Guang slightly narrowed his eyes. It was time to show his real skills. Come out. Chen Yu's world. Chapter 579. The overseas female elite was currently at the stage of starting her own business in China. She was a little annoyed by Hua's pursuit and had no interest in Hua at the moment. This person's personality was skewed. He liked women, and his standard was Jiang Yage. Most importantly, he didn't have a penis. The worldview of the character he was playing instantly formed in his mind. As he was being pushed forward, he gently closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he was a completely different person. Some of the impulses unique to men quickly disappeared from his mind as he completely immersed himself in the role. The world-class acting skills were so domineering. Okay, but I'm not good at singing. You guys sing? I'll just sit here for a while. Chen Guang said with a smile. How is that possible? Beautiful people can't sing badly. Chen Yu, you're too humble. Jean Shuriwei wanted to matchmake the two of them, so her attitude was as gentle as possible. Although Jiang Yage wasn't as cunning as Jean Shuriwei, she also felt that it was strange. Perhaps she and Chen Yu hit it off. When she first saw her, she was attracted to Chen Guang because of her beautiful smile. Now, she was hugging his waist and sticking close to his body. Even though they were strangers for the first time, she couldn't feel any awkwardness or discomfort in her heart. Usually, she wasn't even this affectionate to other female artists. Forget it. Don't think too much about it. Maybe this is what it means to hit it off. No wonder Brother Hua fell in love with her at first sight. She really has a magical charm. Lin Jingwei, who was following behind everyone to Tianhe Room 1, was the most flustered. When Chen Guang's body stiffened, he already wanted to turn around and run. But the sudden turn of events made him shiver. It seemed like Brother Guang had changed into a different person. What's going on? His voice was clearly the same as before, without the slightest change. But why did it feel like he was a different person when he spoke with the same voice and tone without any obvious change? What's wrong? Am I hallucinating? As the only person who knew what was going on, Lin Jingwei's uneasiness that he couldn't get rid of disappeared inexplicably. It even gave Lin Jingwei the illusion that the person here today was not his Brother Guang at all, but Chen Yu, who should not exist in this world. This was too King scary. Lin Jingwei shuddered silently and followed her in. He greeted the other girls in the room with a stiff expression, then sat alone in the corner and looked at Chen Yu, who was surrounded by many girls like stars surrounding the moon. It's over. Brother Guang has been cross-dressing for too long. It has really opened up a whole new world hidden in his heart. At this time, Chen Guang was so skillful in the crowd of women, chatting with them casually. Everything looked so harmonious, natural, and casual. It was as if he was born to appear in this crowd of young and beautiful girls, chatting with them about skincare, beauty, fashion trends, or the recently trending anime and teen idols. Lin Jingwei felt that things were getting worse and worse. He couldn't understand how Brother Guang, who was clearly not interested in these things, did it. The scariest thing was that Brother Guang obviously didn't know anything, but he could boast about what others said as if he was really a professional. Oh my God, Hua didn't know how Lin Jingwei felt, as if he had seen a ghost. Instead, he quietly pulled him. Finally, I managed to keep Miss Chun. I was a little too impatient before, but it's okay. We can take it slow. Jingwei, tell me about her usual hobbies. I think she has a wide range of interests. Lin Jingwei shook his head blankly. I'm not too sure. What can I say? Play Dota? Drive? Pick up girls? Play darts? Play the piano? Maybe she knows ventriloquism? Forget it. It's better not to say too much. On the other side, Jean Shuriwei felt that Lin Jingwei and Hua were left alone at the side after coming in. So she tried to bring the topic in the direction of matchmaking Hua and Chen Yu. Chen Yu, which school did you study in? Brother Hua is a genius graduate from Cambridge. The two of you must have a lot in common. Chen Guang, who was completely in the zone, smiled disdainfully. Our Yale and Cambridge are not particularly friendly schools. Lin Jingwei, who was drinking Coke, nearly choked to death. The coke that went into his nostrils was so sour that tears and snot flowed out. Oh my God, Brother Guang, you're invincible. Can't you stop bragging? What Yale? I graduated from Coconut Milk University. Bai Hua smiled, oh, so it's Yale? I always feel that I hit it off with her. Lin Jingwei covered his nose and snorted. Not to mention Yale. Even if Chinyu said she was from Western Pacific University, Brother Bai would be able to boast about it. Seeing that her first plan didn't work, Jean Shuriwei came up with another plan. Then how do you plan to start your business? In my opinion, although there are many new companies emerging in the domestic IT industry, the competition in the entire industry is extremely fierce. It has become a Red Sea. It's better to try to start with some more solid traditional industries and try to explore the overall environment in our country. This is just my personal opinion. I don't know much about business, so please don't laugh at me. Bai Hua, who had been eavesdropping on their conversation, was so touched that his eyes were brimming with tears. All these years of treating Shuriwei like a sister were not in vain. At the critical moment, you still know how to help me. If this matter succeeds, I will definitely remember your kindness for the rest of my life. You're much more reliable than Jingwei. Jiang Yage, who was next to her, also understood Jean Shuriwei's thoughts. She smiled and egged her on. I think so too. Oh right, Brother Bai, isn't Tianqing a big company in the energy industry? Why don't you go to their company as a consultant? That's pretty good. How about this, Brother Bai? Why don't I help you? I'll think of a way to help you get into Tianqing. Jiang Yage patted her chest heavily. As she spoke, her body was still pressed against Chen Guang's body, and her thighs were tightly pressed against his. Lin Jingwei became nervous again. With his Brother Guang's personality, was he going to rock the boat? In the end, Chen Guang didn't move at all. He didn't even feel the slightest discomfort. He just smiled and thanked Jiang Yage. Then, he looked at Bai Hua, who was anxiously looking at him. I originally considered Tianqing, but I still think it's more comfortable to rely on myself. Mr. Bai and my sisters, I appreciate your kindness. After being rejected again, Jean Shuriwei and Jiang Yage were a little disappointed. Bai Hua, on the other hand, was disappointed but felt that it was reasonable. Everyone had come to Inua to sing. Besides, other than Jean Shuriwei and Jiang Yage, there were also 2 or 3 second-generation singers in the room. They were either playing around or had seriously released singles. After chatting for a while, Chen Guang finally half-egged and half-forced him to take the microphone. Jean Shuriwei and Jiang Yage had a good plan. First, they would let Chun Yu sing a solo song. Then, they would pick Hiroshima Love. Naturally, they would create an opportunity for Bai Hua to sing a duet with her. Although Bai Hua wasn't a professional singer, he was still pretty good. Lin Jingwei silently looked at Chen Guang, who had picked up the microphone with a helpless look on his face. After holding back for a long time, he still couldn't pull out the wet wipes from his trouser pocket and stuff them into his ears. He can't really sing, can he? Lin Jingwei thought. However, when Chen Guang opened his mouth, Lin Jingwei's heart calmed down. Fortunately, the singer hadn't been replaced. This was the real Brother Guang. Although his voice was as beautiful as a fairy's, his unexplainable sense of music was undeniable. As always, he was off-key and circling the stage 360 degrees. Well, seeing this scene, there was no need to sing Hiroshima Love. Jean Shuriwei silently deleted the song list and didn't dare to mention it again. Everyone felt that God was fair. He had given Chun Yu such a tall, beautiful, elegant, and graduated from Yale. Yet, he had given her a good voice. It was too cruel to others. Chun Yu sings so well. Bai Hua cupped his hands in front of his chest, but his face was full of enchantment. Lin Jingwei shrank back. Damn, it felt like Brother Bai Hua was basically a useless person now. You don't even have your principles. Seeing that he had more or less dealt with it, Chen Guang pretended to look at the time and was ready to leave. Jiang Yage's eyes were sharp. Yo, Sister Chen Yu, are you using a popcorn phone? Don't many people in the U.S. use apples? Chen Guang didn't have the slightest discomfort. He elegantly said, I don't like to use the same things as others. All right, it's getting late. I really have to go. I have a flight to Beijing tomorrow morning. so I can't sleep too late. With this reason, no one could make him stay. Although Jean Shuriwe felt regretful, she still struggled and said, "Then let Brother Baihua send you. It's not safe for a girl to go out so late at night." Chen Guang waved his hand and refused. "No need, no need. I drove here myself. You guys saying don't send me." On the other side, Baihua still didn't give up. He braced himself and wanted to stand up. Chen Guang looked at him coldly. His eyes had a deep sense of annoyance. Lin Jingwei coughed violently, waking Baihua from his stupor. He secretly blamed himself for being too impatient. He had already made her unhappy, and if he continued to pester her shamelessly, it would only make her feel more and more disgusted. Forget it. He decided to leave it at that for today. At least he had achieved his most basic goal. Then, Lin Jingwei, sister, shall we say goodbye? Solomon, you look cuter than on TV. Chen Guang covered his mouth and smiled. Then he turned around and walked away. This series of small actions made the image of a strong woman who liked cute little girls jump out of her skin. Lin Jingwei was shocked. Brother Guang's acting was godly. At this time, he finally understood the reason for Chen Guang's sudden change. Brother Guang must have had an explosion in his universe and inexplicably awakened his acting talent. A natural best actress. Damn, best actress. And so was born. At this time, Jiang Yage put down a microphone and stood up. She said goodbye to her sisters and said that she was going to order some drinks. After walking out Tian, Room 1, Jiang Yage went straight to the public restroom. Standing in front of the restroom, she hesitated for about 3 seconds. Then she knocked on the door of the men's restroom and shouted in a low voice, "Is there anyone inside? Mop the floor." There was no movement. She rushed in. The doors of the 9 cubicles were wide open, and they were empty. Jiang Yage turned around and walked out of the men's restroom. She went straight to the women's restroom next door. This time, she didn't pretend to be cleaning and directly opened the door. All the private rooms in Inori had their own private restroom. This public restroom was indeed not used. Out of the 12 stalls in the women's restroom, only one was tightly shut. The sound of running water and rustling could be heard coming from inside. Jiang Yage bent down and looked at the shoes through the gap below. She had a look of realization on her face. "It's you." When she was sticking to this guy, just now, she smelled this familiar scent. There was a faint musk, or perhaps it was more appropriate to say that it was a man's scent. "I always felt that there was something fishy about you, and I was right. No wonder I felt that you were kind when I first saw you. No wonder I felt that you were cheap when you smiled just now. I thought that I had fallen in love with a woman. It scared me so much. But if this is you, then it all makes perfect sense. Your acting is a little too overbearing. It's really similar. I've never seen anyone act more like you. If I hadn't found your popcorn at the critical moment and confirmed my thoughts, I would have let you run away. But you've finally spoken your heart in front of me. My hot blood didn't flow in vain. You must have been touched by me. You still like me, right? Chen Guang, let's see where you can run this time." Chapter 580. Jiang Yage didn't like to think too much about things, but it didn't mean that she was stupid. She just didn't want to spend her mind on things that she didn't care about. For a girl like her, the real strength wasn't the messy reasoning in her mind, but her intuition. She had her intuition first, and then used it as a starting point to deduce all the way. Only then did she completely confirm the fact that Chen Yu was Chen Guang's impersonation. In this regard, Jean Shuriwe wasn't as good as her. In fact, it was quite a mess. The safest place for Chen Guang to change was, of course, in the second private room, but Sister Hua wasn't in the mood to wait for him. She finished his makeup, threw him a bottle of makeup remover, and left quickly. After coming out of Tiana number 1, Chen Guang didn't think too much. He just wanted to change back into men's clothes as soon as possible. As for why he chose the women's restroom, cough, cough, cough. Those who understood. Unfortunately, there was no one inside, but he didn't feel regretful. Instead, he went into the stall and quickly changed his clothes. High-end clubs like Inua didn't focus on customer flow. The employees also had their own restroom. This public restroom was sparsely populated, so Chen Guang wasn't worried about being seen outside. He heard the door open halfway. but he didn't think much of it. People would leave when they came in to use the restroom. By the time he finished removing his makeup, the person would have already left. Sure enough, after a while, he heard the door open again. The person should have left. He didn't know that this was Jiang Ye's careful disguise. Finally, he removed most of the makeup on his face. Then, he stuffed the wig and unisex shirt into his bag and carefully checked the front camera of his phone. There was no sign of makeup on his face. He smiled with satisfaction and was ready to leave this damn place. He listened carefully for about 10 seconds, and when he was sure that there was no one else in the women's restroom, he opened the door boldly. Just as he was about to walk out, he was shocked by a certain person who was looking at him with her hands on her hips and a sneer. He shook his head, thinking that he was hallucinating. Then he narrowed his eyes and opened them again. The person was still there, looking at him with deep meaning in her eyes. Chen Guang took a step back, then closed the door with a backhand. Impossible. This was impossible. This was an illusion. It must be an illusion. I must have opened the door the wrong way. I'll be fine if I do it again. Then, he carefully opened the door a little bit. Jiang Ye, who had been blocking the door with her hands on her hips, was already standing at the edge of the door. She tilted her head and stared at him meaningfully with her big eyes. This was not a dream, nor was it an illusion. This was King real. Stop hiding. You're not dreaming. It's me, Jiang Ye said. Chen Guang's mouth twitched. What a coincidence. Why are you in the men's toilet? Jiang Ye glanced at the bag he was trying to hide behind his back and said with a sneaky smile, "This is the women's room. You should also hide it. I saw your LV bag." Chen Guang took a deep breath and suddenly looked behind her with a horrified expression. "Look, there's a ghost in the mirror." Then, he fiercely opened the door, planning to escape. Unexpectedly, Jiang Ye had already seen through his plot. She immediately opened her arms and held the cubicle door from both sides. "You want to run? Do you believe that I won't tell Bai Hua about you pretending to be Chen Yu?" Chen Guang hesitated for 10 seconds. He carefully weighed Jiang Ye's character in his heart and came to a despairing conclusion. She could really do such a heartless and wicked thing. Fine, I won't run anymore. Let's see what she wants to do. I'll be stabbed if I stick out my head, and I'll be stabbed if I stick out my head. Do whatever you want. I'll let you do whatever you want. Bumping into her head on was really bad luck. Even if it was Jean Shuriwei who bumped into him, it would be better. Sigh. I won't run. Tell me, what do you want? It's all up to you, okay? Chen Guang sighed. He was like a piece of meat on the chopping board. Jiang Ye's big eyes turned, and one clever idea after another appeared in her mind. This was a heaven-sent opportunity for her to grab hold of his blunt weakness. If she didn't make good use of it, she would be letting herself down. Look at you pretending to be a gentleman in front of me all day long, but you must have at least masturbated in front of me countless times. You know that you can eat your fill and the whole family won't starve, but you put me halfway up the mountain and tormented me. As a person, you can't be so selfish. Jiang Ye was very proud of herself. In fact, she had selectively neglected one thing. The truly selfish person might be herself. She understood why Chen Guang would dress as a girl and pretend to be Chen Yu. But her subconscious was avoiding this question. She was very clear that Chen Guang had made such a big sacrifice and risked being exposed. He dressed as a girl to charm Bai Hua. It could only be because he had fallen in love with Jean Shuriwei. He longed to make the act with Jean Shuriwei real. So he used this extreme method to eliminate a strong competitor. And now he had succeeded. When she confirmed that Chen Guang was Chen Yu, Jiang Ye completely understood. But she forced herself to be immersed in the joy of finding out his embarrassment, deliberately forgetting this possibility. Because she really couldn't accept it. I was the one who confessed, and I was the one who took the initiative. Why did you fall in love with Sister Shuriwei? This isn't fair to me. When the accident happened in Painting Lake, Jiang Ye was willing to give the chance to live to Jean Shuriwei without hesitation. But this time it was different. She could give up her life, but when it came to love, she wanted to be selfish for once. What's more, Sister Shuriwei didn't like him. Wouldn't it be a happy ending for everyone if he and I were together? Jiang Ye comforted herself and numbed herself. She had succeeded. Now she just wanted to do something to cut off this guy's escape route. She wanted him to understand that she was serious and not joking with him. Just as she was thinking about what to do, the door to the women's restroom was suddenly pushed open. Jiang Yage woke up with a start. Without thinking carefully, she pushed Chen Guang inside, followed by him, and locked the cubicle door from the inside. The unique clattering sound of high heels on the ground came from afar. She didn't know if it was a guest or Inua's staff, but that wasn't important. What was important was that Chen Guang and Jiang Yage were now squeezed face to face in this small cubicle. Originally, Inua's toilet cubicle was very large, but that was only relative to one person's use. Now that two people were squeezed in, it was a big problem. In fact, it wasn't that Jiang Yage couldn't force the distance between the two of them. If she wanted to, her back was against the door, and there should be at least a foot of space between their chests. But she had to be willing to do that. Chen Guang was already clinging to the water tank behind him, but he couldn't stand Jiang Yage clinging to him fiercely and hugging him tightly. His eyes widened and his mouth opened slightly. He wanted to shout and asked Jiang Yage what she wanted to do. However, Jiang Yage quickly reached out to cover his mouth and shushed him softly. Then she tiptoed and put her mouth to his ear. "Don't be agitated. If someone hears it, it'll be all over. Sister Shuriwei and I will be in the headlines." Chen Guang was shocked, and a creepy news headline popped up in his mind. Two women fighting for their husbands. Jean Shuriwei's fiancé and Jiang Yage have an affair in the toilet. This headline was too explosive. There was no need to say anything else. It was guaranteed to be on the headlines of major news media for 3 days. It would jump to the top of Weibo's trending search. Unless there was a coup in a country, there was no way it would drop. If he was a gossipy person, he wouldn't be able to resist such an exciting and explosive headline. He was really well behaved. Fine, he had to accept his fate. Once their hearts calmed down, the current situation between the two of them became particularly exciting. Although Jiang Yage had never shown herself in a sexy style, Chen Guang, who had seen her many times, knew that this girl's chest was very voluptuous. At this moment, the two of them were so close to each other that a strong sense of oppression swept over like a wave. Their ribs were pressed hard, and the elasticity was amazing, but it also had a soft touch. The places where their bodies were in contact through their clothes were pressed into two perfect circles. From time to time, they would gently move and tickle their breasts. Jiang Yage's head was resting on his shoulder, and the hot breath she exhaled was gently tickling Chen Guang's earlobe. He didn't know what kind of faint fragrance was coming out of the collar of her little silk vest and burrowing into Chen Guang's nose. Thanks to Inua's cleaning ante, there was no smell in the bathroom at all. The smell that Chen Guang smelled was pure and free of impurities. But this was even more terrible. Earlier, when he was at the entrance of Tiana No. 1, he had been attacked by Jean Shuriwei and Jiang Yage from the left and right. Later, he had suppressed his anger with his world-class acting skills. Now that he was being humiliated by Jiang Yage in front of him, how could he remain calm? Jiang Yage's face was also red. She was also shy, but she didn't have the slightest intention of backing down. She had a faint feeling that she didn't have many chances left. If she didn't take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to grab hold of his weakness and do something that he couldn't struggle against, sooner or later, she would be gradually forgotten by him. It wasn't enough to just rely on her phone to send him some big shots. Feeling the sudden force in her lower abdomen, as if she had been hit by a bull's horn, Jiang Yage's face became even redder. Her eyes gradually became misty, and the hand that was hugging Chen Guang's back slowly moved down. She gently picked up the lower edge of Chen Guang's t-shirt and directly buckled it on his strong back. Chen Guang was scared out of his wits by Jiang Yage's expression at this time. He desperately lowered his voice and said, "Jiang Yage, what are you doing? There are people outside. Calm down. Don't mess around. You're just being impulsive. I'm not worthy of you at all. Okay?" Chen Guang's words didn't make Jiang Yage regain the slightest bit of sobriety. She was still greedily reaching up with her hands until she touched Chen Guang's two shoulder blades. She exhaled and said, I've never cared about who's worthy or not. That's not love, that's business. I've never been impulsive. From the moment you saved me, I never thought of any other possibility. You think I'm joking with you, but you don't know how serious I am. I'm not impulsive at all. I'm serious. Yes, there are people outside, so stop struggling and relax. You two-faced guy, aren't you making a lot of noise? As Jiang Yage said that, she used a little force to push her body forward again, and her breathing became even heavier. With his body suddenly being squeezed, Chen Guang's eyes immediately widened. I can't take it anymore. Even with the old man's 1,000 years of cultivation, it seems like he can't withstand this peerless demoness fierce attack. Should I simply enter a world sect to save myself? Although I know this method will definitely work, but I can't bear to do it. The old man is just an ordinary person. He's not a person who can sit still. The person the old man is facing is also not an ordinary person. It's Jiang Yage. She's the national goddess Jiang Yage, who is famous throughout the country and the Asia-Pacific. To be able to endure to this point, the old man is almost a saint. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame Chen Guang for looking at her nude photos in the past. The two of them were still wearing their clothes, but his mind had already started to uncontrollably recall those nude photos that he had seen in the past. Should I struggle for one more second? Don't. There's someone. Chen Guang made a final struggle and said in a low voice. Jiang Yage completely ignored him. So don't make a sound. Didn't you just say that I can do whatever I want? If you don't want Bai Hua to know the secret, now, immediately, kiss me. No. Chen Guang turned his head away. If a person like me lived in ancient times, I would definitely become a legend. I might even be stronger than Liu Xiaohui. If someone hears it, it's over. At this moment, the woman in high heels seemed to have finished peeing. She padded toward the door, opened it, closed it, and disappeared. Chen Guang was dumbfounded. Now that there's no one, you still want to deny it? Imagine if Bai Huan knew that the woman he likes is you. What kind of state would he be in? Jiang Yage was like a female version of the little demon Tyrion, speaking in a seductive and threatening tone. But her hand did not stop stroking Chen Guang's back for even a second. She seemed to want to rub her body into Chen Guang's so that the two of them could fuse into one. Actually, I'm really a cross-dresser. Don't you mind? Chen Guang gradually lost himself. His eyes became more and more hazy, and his voice trembled as he struggled. But his voice also seemed to melt steel, becoming soft. I don't mind. I also like to see you in women's clothes. It's so beautiful. Actually, I already knew it. Do you remember? When we escaped from Disneyland, I've been holding on to the maternity dress you wore. When I have the chance, I'll get you one. I know fashion very well. It'll look better than the clothes you chose this time. Chen Guang felt that Jiang Yage had gone completely crazy. He really wanted to tell Jiang Yage, ask her what she liked about him, and he would change. Deep down, he was intoxicated by his manly instincts, but what was left of his rationality told him that he could not continue developing with Jiang Yage like this. No matter what, he was now Jin Shiyue's boyfriend on the surface, but in the dark, he had slept with Zhuo Jingxi. Only God knew if he had really done that with Wenwen. Now, there was another Jiang Yage. His body was not stressed at all, but the more he thought about it, the more screwed up he felt. How to suppress Jin Shiyue's matter in the future was already a headache. Adding another Jiang Yage was not just asking for trouble, but jumping into magma. But in the end, he could not say it. Although there were many coincidences in the development of the matter, the final result was that he had used women's clothes to make Bai Hua fall head over heels for him. If Jiang Yage really revealed it, he would not be able to raise his head in public in the future. Lin Jingwei would not be able to explain himself to Bai Hua, and the two of them would probably turn against each other. This was too heavy a responsibility to bear, and the consequences were too serious and scary. With Jiang Yage's personality, Chen Guang did not dare to bet on her being reasonable. Hurry up and kiss me, or I'll get angry. Jiang Yage gave him an ultimatum. Chapter 581. Chen Guang didn't have a choice. The pressure from her body was getting heavier, and the two of them were getting closer and closer. The strength of her fingers on Cheng Guang's back was also getting stronger and stronger, to the point that it became a scratch with her fingertips. Cheng Guang didn't feel the slightest bit of pain. Instead, he felt an inexplicable intoxication. That's right, in this narrow space, with his back against the toilet tank, feeling Jiang Ye's pressure step by step, Cheng Guang's willpower was quickly collapsing. Forget it. What else could he say? He took a deep breath, slowly lowered his head, and slowly kissed Jiang Ye's red lips. Jiang Ye's heart was beating like thunder. Her face was red like blood, and she gradually closed her eyes. Success, I finally succeeded. You cold-hearted bastard. Do you really need me to do this to make you succumb? When their lips touched, Jiang Ye was so excited that her whole body trembled as if she had been electrocuted. She was completely intoxicated in this kiss, no longer thinking about the matter that had been bothering her recently. The matter between Sister Shuriwei and him had been completely exposed. Originally, there was a mountain between them, but now there was another mountain. The situation didn't improve because of her continuous attacks. Instead, the distance between her and Cheng Guang was getting further and further. Maybe they were getting closer in WeChat, but in reality, they were getting further and further apart. Jiang Ye didn't blame Jean Shuriwei. At that time, Cheng Guang was in a bad situation, and Jean Shuriwei had made a huge sacrifice. For things to turn out like this, it could only be said that fate made a fool out of people. But I, Jiang Ye, will never admit defeat. What I want, no one can take away. I won't let anyone. She used more and more force, whether it was her hands, waist, or mouth. Her lilac tongue stretched out like a viper coming out of its hole, and fiercely pushed open Cheng Guang's teeth that were originally closed together. As for Cheng Guang, whether it was his mouth, his chest that was pressed against Jiang Ye's plump chest, his hands that were subconsciously hugging Jiang Ye's back, his body that was as hard as iron, or even the girl's body fragrance that was crazily rushing into his nostrils, all of these things were crazily attacking his manly instinct. In a daze, a divine voice seemed to reverberate in his mind. It was the singing of a holy angel, purifying his filthy and vulgar soul. What awaited him was not life, but heaven. People in the Jianghu would often encounter all sorts of unstoppable forces. At this time, he was facing this irresistible force. Jiang Ye, who was the meat on the chopping board, was too charming. No, Jiang Ye should be the knife that chopped the meat, and he himself was the meat. The blade-like Jiang Ye used her unique youthful charm to ruthlessly tear apart Cheng Guang's originally weak resistance. Cheng Guang's heart was bleeding, and he silently thought, if there is a next life, I must be a good person, but now, I am sorry. His hand that was hugging Jiang Ye's body tightened, and more force. Even before he himself was aware, he unconsciously reached down and didn't know when he had grabbed Jiang Ye's buttocks. Jiang Ye moaned, and she became even more shy. She took her right hand back and fiercely grabbed Cheng Guang's left hand that was playing with her buttocks, and the two of them that were pressed against each other's chests also pulled apart a little. Huh, it seems that I'm a little too much. Cheng Guang suddenly recovered a little and was about to take his right hand back. However, Jiang Ye didn't want to stop him at all, but launched an even more violent counterattack. She actually pressed Cheng Guang's left hand to her chest, and her right hand grabbed the back of Cheng Guang's left hand and pressed harder, and then her lips came up again. Even though there were 2 layers of clothes between them, the real touch was not discounted at all. The exquisite elasticity burst out, like holding a towel that was soaked in water and kneaded into a ball. Cheng Guang would never have thought that Jiang Ye would do this. The intense kiss continued. Cheng Guang, who had already let go of all resistance, began to subconsciously clench his right hand's 5 fingers and greedily wanted to occupy the most beautiful fullness in the world. Harder, harder. Jiang Ye suppressed her voice and said softly. As she spoke, her body began to tremble violently again, as if he had been greatly stimulated, but she still suppressed it and did not dare to make a louder sound. This was not her home, but the bathroom of Inua Club. Although it was unlikely that anyone would come in again, The subconscious sense of excitement and tension lingered. Time gradually passed, and a full 5 minutes later, the two's lips were even a little swollen. At this time, Chen Guang's right hand had gone straight under the small vest into Jiang Ye's clothes. Their skin had already touched, and if he took another step forward, it would be a bottomless abyss. After going crazy, Jiang Ye finally gradually recovered. She blushed and withdrew her hand from Chen Guang's back, feeling satisfied. Then, she looked at Chen Guang's lips and suddenly burst out laughing. "You sausage mouth." She smiled mischievously. Chen Guang looked at her angrily. "Aren't you the same?" Jiang Ye exclaimed in a low voice. "Ah, really?" She covered her lips and rubbed them for a moment. "Really?" Looking at her clever and cute look, Chen Guang could not deny that his heart skipped a beat, as if he had been hit in his soft spot. How cute. In any case, he had finally passed the dangerous part. Chen Guang sighed in his heart. He felt excited, but he also secretly rejoiced. Perhaps there were more regrets. "You've been out for too long. Why don't you hurry back? They will look for you, right?" Chen Guang asked tentatively. At this time, Jiang Ye suddenly looked up at him, and she could read a little joy in his eyes. "What? Do you think this is the end of it?" Chen Guang's heart skipped a beat. Again. "You kissed me and touched me. You will take responsibility, right?" Jiang Ye said sinisterly. Chen Guang's face turned pale. He could not refute her. Think about Brother Baihua's face when he finds out that you are the one he likes. Jiang Ye used this trick again, and it was really effective. I lost. What do you want? Tell me, right?" Chen Guang asked dejectedly. Suddenly, Jiang Ye fiercely pulled up her little vest. Her fingers hooked around her chest and continued to pull. Just like that, she opened up her chest and faced Chen Guang. "Now, I want you to look at me." Jiang Ye had an extremely evil and smug smile on her face. Chen Guang looked at her face. Even though he had seen her face in photos many times, this time was different. It suddenly changed from a flat surface to a three-dimensional one. It was even scarier. "Left and right hands, bring them up." Chen Guang accepted his fate. "Now that I have your seal on me, from today onwards, you are mine." Jiang Ye straightened her neck and said fiercely, "If you dare to ignore me again, I will die with you." After saying that, she suddenly took out her cell phone and pointed the camera at her chest, taking pictures of Chen Guang's hand and her chest. Then she turned around and took pictures of both their faces. "You are not allowed to ignore me in the future. I will take pictures of everything." Chen Guang's eyes widened. He never thought that this would be the end. One of his weaknesses was still in her hands, and in the blink of an eye, another one was in her hands. Just then, Jiang Ye's cell phone rang. It was Jean Shuriwa. "Song Ye, where have you been? It's been so long. I asked someone to look for you at the front desk just now, but I didn't see you." Jiang Ye raised her hand and pressed Chen Guang's hand again. She looked straight into his eyes and said, "Sister Shuriwa, my stomach is a little uncomfortable. I am in the toilet outside. I will be back soon." "Oh, if you are uncomfortable, can we go back early?" Jean Shuriwa asked with concern. Jiang Ye's left hand was still exerting force. "It doesn't matter. I will be fine after squatting in the toilet." After hanging up the phone, she let go of her hand, then slowly tidied up her clothes and smiled at Chen Guang. "I am really serious. Don't think that I am joking." She turned around, went out, and left. Her movements were smooth. She felt refreshed and satisfied. Only Chen Guang was left sitting on the toilet alone, silently thinking about hitting Yiling. "Hello, is it Yiling? Someone has been set up here. Now the situation is out of control. Can you come and save me? What exactly does she like about me?" Chen Guang shook his head. "I don't understand. I really don't understand." In fact, Jiang Ye didn't understand either, but she felt that if she really had to find a reason for these things, it wouldn't be called like or love. Perhaps it was because of his handsomeness, or perhaps it was because he had saved her life, or perhaps it was because he looked very cute when he acted in Tears Never End on the set, or perhaps it was because of the manliness he showed when he escaped with the two of them at Disney, Or perhaps it was because of the joy he showed when he changed into maternity clothes for the first time in the car. Or perhaps it was because of his unparalleled handsomeness when he played the piano on stage. After all, Jiang Yage had secretly watched the video at least 10 times, but every time she watched it, her eyes were filled with little stars. This was fate, but also a sin. Who would know if they didn't walk to the end? Unlike animals, humans were always creatures dominated by extremely complicated emotions, weren't they? Dragging his tired body, Chen Guang carefully moved out of the women's toilet, then quickly walked out of Inua with his head down. He took a taxi and went directly to the military guest house. Qian Ming had sent his luggage there earlier. Sitting in the car, Chen Guang hesitated for a long time, but then he sent a WeChat message to Jin Shiwei. "Tonight, I met your grandfather when I had dinner with Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei. He seems to like me very much. Let's find a suitable time to confess to him. Thank you for taking care of me these days, but it's really unfair for you to continue like this." Chen Guang felt a little tired. Sitting quietly in the hotel room, he didn't even have the interest to read the script of Women because he had already memorized it. With his current acting skills, it wasn't difficult for him to act in this movie. Forget it. Don't think about these messy things anymore. I still have a lot of trouble on my hands. In the end, the hidden story behind the hot pot poisoning case and the possible life and death crisis that one might face were more important. He finally put his thoughts away. The current source of faith value wasn't enough, and it wasn't coming fast enough. The production capacity of the Dark Cup had reached its peak. It was time to think about how to increase the production capacity of the other Dark Cup realms. The next morning, he was woken up by Wu Tong's phone call. Wu Tong only said one sentence to make him completely awake. "I finished the task and came back. The family that you asked me to investigate a few days ago died on the way back to Lalai County from Wujing last night." Chapter 582. About half an hour later, Chen Guang appeared at the Yinjing Police Department, where Wu Tong had been waiting for him for a long time. In fact, as soon as he left the military guest house, he was picked up by someone who was a police officer from Yinjing. Wu Tong called him because she didn't want Chen Guang to have any misunderstandings with these people, so she just gave him a heads up in advance. It was also a coincidence that the one with the highest rank among the 3 police cars that came to pick him up happened to be one of the trainees he had previously trained and shunned. Although the captain of the Special Police Force, who was nearly 30 years old, was not lucky enough to master the unique skill of darts, he still admired Chen Guang quite a bit. In advance, he briefly explained the cause and effect of the matter to Chen Guang. In fact, the family returned to Wujing 2 days ago, but their behavior was very abnormal. After getting off the plane in Wujing, the family of 3 took a taxi from the airport to the city and then began to hide like headless flies, as if they were aware that a crisis was approaching. They didn't dare to stay in a hotel, nor did they dare to take a car back to Lalai County, and even turned off their mobile phones. If it weren't for the Skynet system that would capture the characteristics of the family of 3 from time to time, their secretive whereabouts would even make people think that they had disappeared from the world. Then, from yesterday afternoon until evening, the Skynet system could no longer capture their whereabouts, until the car they were in had a serious accident on the highway, and their bodies were found. The car was also very strange. The driver was a good friend of the male owner of the family. Yesterday morning, he set off from Lalai County and went straight to Wujing without any warning. According to the driver's wife, who cooperated with the investigation overnight, last night, her husband chatted with his old friend on WeChat on his mobile phone and suddenly left the house early the next morning. However, in the WeChat of the deceased driver, the Dechuan police did not find any chat records. It was clear that after chatting with the male owner of the victim's family last night, he took the initiative to delete all the chat records. In addition, according to the driving recorder of a witness who happened to follow the car on the highway, the car was originally driving smoothly, but not long after passing through the Fengquanshan tunnel on the highway, it suddenly lost control. It snaked for a long distance on the road, but not only did it not slow down, it kept speeding up until it hit the divider at a speed of more than 150 kilometers per hour on a road, with a speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour, and broke into pieces. They hit in Wujing, not daring to go to any hotel or internet cafe that required real name registration. They didn't even dare to make phone calls or take a bus. They only dared to try contacting their friends on WeChat and immediately delete their voice chat records. Even when passing through highway toll booths and locations with surveillance cameras, the family of three all lowered their heads, afraid of being photographed. But in the end, they still couldn't escape. Something must have happened in the Phong Quan Mountain Tunnel, but there was no sign of it even on the car's dashcam. All these signs combined showed that the victim's family had a premonition that someone wanted their lives, and after struggling for a while, they still died. This tragic car accident that killed 4 people at the same time was not a coincidence. The strange car accident that killed 4 people attracted the attention of the Dechuan police. After a thorough investigation, they unknowingly pushed the relationship of the family of 3 to Chen Guang's family. After all, not long ago, Chen Guoli settled a huge compensation of 800,000 yuan with them, and there was a potential dispute. The more important evidence came from Chen Guang, who was in Yinjing. He had previously used the internal channels of the police department to find out the location of the victim's family and left some clues. In addition, he quickly moved into the room next to the victim's family, and he left quickly without waiting for dawn the next day. Although nothing happened at the time, what Chen Guang did leave a major suspicion, because not long after that day, the family began to behave extremely strangely. So, the Dechuan police asked me to cooperate with the investigation. They actually want to arrest me? Chen Guang, who was sitting in the back seat, asked. The captain sitting next to him hesitated for 2 seconds and said, "It's not an arrest. In fact, Instructor Chen, you're not very suspicious. Before we find more substantial evidence, everything stays at the level of speculation. There is no strong evidence to directly prove that Instructor Chen was involved in the car accident. Then why did they send someone to pick me up so early in the morning? And it's an elite captain like you? And they even let Wu Tong greet me before picking me up? Are they afraid that I will fight with you?" Chen Guang asked with a meaningful smile. The captain whispered, "There are other reasons, but I can't say more. Instructor Chen, please don't make it difficult for me." "Special Affairs Bureau?" Chen Guang suddenly asked without thinking. The captain's expression froze, but he quickly waved his hand. "I didn't say anything. All right, as long as I understand. Thank you." Chen Guang did not make things difficult for the captain. He tilted his head and leaned against the back of the back seat, deep in thought. He did not expect that the family would die. He had thought that the forces behind the hot pot poisoning case might constantly test him and take some measures. They might send people to threaten him, or they might find people who might know something about the case and warn them. As for his family, who should have been the most worried, he did not need to worry too much because of Wenwen's repeated assurances. In the end, he guessed all wrong. Those people were crazier and more ruthless than he had imagined. Perhaps because of his relationship with Wenwen or his relationship with the authorities in Huaxia, he and his family were restrained from taking action. However, the family of 3 who were coincidentally involved in this case were wiped out without hesitation. He was not worried that he would be convicted. Even if he was indeed a major suspect because of the previous incident, suspicion was just suspicion. They could not have any conclusive evidence, and he did not do it in the first place. For Wu Tong to call in advance, it was obvious that the higher-ups had reached some kind of tacit understanding. Today's trip was only to give an explanation to the Dechuan Province Police. In a sense, it was an explanation to Wu Shan. However, these were all side details. What really chilled Chen Guang's heart was the methods of those people. Before today, he had thought that the forces of inner strength might only regard themselves as ordinary people with unique skills. However, through this incident, Chen Guang became clear-headed. Those who had achieved success in practicing inner strength did not care about the lives of ordinary people from the bottom of their hearts. They simply treated ordinary people like livestock. Not all martial artists were like this, but the group of martial artists who opposed him and Wenwen must be like this. Wu Tong was standing at the gate, waiting anxiously. Chen Guang was suddenly involved in such a big matter. She was originally going to return to Wu Jing today, but the call from Wu Shan last night changed her itinerary. 4 lives were not a trivial matter, but the implications were extremely important. Now, the only person who could make Chen Guang behave and be willing to negotiate with the Special Bureau was probably Wu Tong. When Chen Guang saw Wu Tong again, he found that she was thinner and darker than before. Obviously, the special task she was carrying out these days was not easy. Sung Yongtai was standing next to Wu Tong. When Chen Guang saw him, he immediately understood that his guess was right. "Let's go inside and talk." Wu Tong came up to him. In front of outsiders, she did not appear to be too intimate. Nodding his head, Chen Guang was about to enter. Sung Yongtai suddenly flashed from the side and took out a pair of handcuffs from his hand. He cursed at the captain who got out of the car with Chen Guang. "The criminal suspect is not handcuffed? Is this how you do things?" Chen Guang turned slightly. "Bureau Chief Sung, you're not a police officer. You don't have to overstep your authority, right? Besides, which eye of yours saw me as a suspect? I'm only here to cooperate with the investigation, and you want to convict me with just your mouth? Who gave you the right to do so?" Sung Yongtai was not going to let it go. "You used your police connections to investigate the victim's whereabouts and stayed in the room next to the victims on the same day. Isn't that evidence?" Chen Guang grinned. "We are all smart people. I know what you want, so don't pretend to be confused. If there is a hidden story behind the murder of the family, you should know better than me who is related to it. Let me remind you, it's best not to complicate matters. When were they killed? When did I investigate them? No matter how much you guess, it's useless. There's not enough evidence." As he said that, he simply raised his hands in front of Sung Yongtai. "I know you want to show me who is boss and negotiate with me later. Why don't you try handcuffing me? I'll put my hands here. Why don't you try handcuffing me?" In the end, when he really put his hands in front of him, Sung Yongtai tried to pick up the handcuffs twice, but he put them back. He didn't dare. Wu Tong personally sent Chen Guang to the interrogation room of the Yanjing Police Department. The questions were still the same, such as his name, place of origin, why he came to Yanjing, and what time period he was in Yanjing. There wasn't anything shameful about Chen Guang, aside from the matter of him getting a room with Wen, which he described as him wandering around in boredom. Chen Guang explained everything in detail. When he took a glance, he realized that when this person was taking the statement, he wrote that his whereabouts were unknown from the time he first left Shun's special training camp until now. After thinking about it for a while, Chen Guang understood that Sung Yongtai and the Yanjing Police Department must have done something. Sung Yongtai wanted to make him a scapegoat. Things became interesting all of a sudden. It was impossible for Sung Yongtai not to know his relationship with the elders. In any case, he still had the identity of Jean Shiyue's boyfriend. He actually dared to do something so brazenly? Sung Yongtai was a bit too bold. "All right, we'll stop recording your statement here. You're not allowed to leave before we get to the bottom of your background. Xiaoyang, take him to the detention room." The Yanjing police officer in charge of interrogating him seemed to have a high rank. After the interrogation, he closed the notebook and was about to leave. He didn't talk nonsense with Chen Guang and just greeted another police officer. Chen Guang wasn't in a hurry to make things difficult for him. He was suddenly involved in such a big matter, and he was in Yanjing. It was impossible for no one to inform Jean Shiyue. If he was right, the special police captain who came to pick him up should have already made a call. When he got out of the car, just now, that person's eyes were very meaningful. After walking out of the interrogation room, Wu Tong came over and said, "Let's talk together." The Yanjing police officer originally wanted to separate Wu Tong and Chen Guang, but when he saw Sung Yongtai standing next to them with a cold face, he didn't say anything. This detention room was obviously prepared for Chen Guang alone. It had good ventilation, bright lighting, and a clean single bed. It was better than the general hotel's equipment, but the strong iron door made people feel uncomfortable. Chen Guang sat on the bed, and Wu Tong also sat next to him. Chen Guang looked up at Sung Yongtai and said, "Bureau Chief Sung, what do you want to talk about? Let's talk." At this moment, Wu Tong's phone rang. She got up and picked up the phone. After a few words, her face changed. After hanging up the phone, Chen Guang and Sung Yongtai asked at the same time, "What happened to the Chuan again?" Wu Tong first looked at Sung Yongtai, as if she didn't want to talk to him, but she felt that she couldn't hide it from him. So she said directly, "I just received news that 6 families involved in the Chun family's hot pot poisoning case died mysteriously, a total of 22 people. Some of them woke up with gas poisoning, and there was also a family who suddenly fell to the ground when they went out for a morning jog. There was also a family who was poisoned while eating breakfast at a noodle shop. The cause of death was very strange, and there were no signs." Chen Guang stood up, and his body was cold. In his memory, including the Yin Jing family, there were a total of 7 families who showed the most severe signs of food poisoning at the hot pot restaurant, and the compensation was also the largest. There is no doubt that there was someone behind the scenes behind these 7 families. Not only did the person behind the scenes kill the family of 3 that he had been in contact with, but he also didn't let any of the other 6 families go. 25 lives were gone just like that. He really didn't expect these people to be so ruthless. Seng Yongtai took a deep breath and looked outside through the iron fence. He looked at Chun Guang with a complicated expression and said slowly, "I reminded you long ago to stop. Are you happy now? Are you satisfied? Are you happy now?" Although Wu Tong didn't know what had happened, Wu Shan's original words to her were to find a way to persuade Chen Guang not to let him have a conflict with the people from the Special Affairs Bureau. The whole thing, whether it was the Dechuan police or the Yin Jing police, was full of strangeness and strangeness. But among the 3 people in the room, Chen Guang and Sun Yongtai were well aware of it. "From your tone, it seems like it's my fault." Chen Guang also looked at Sun Yongtai, not to be outdone. "Isn't this ridiculous? They were the ones who killed the people, and I'm the one at fault." Sing Yongtai said angrily, "If it weren't for your pointless questioning, these people wouldn't have died." Chen Guang also roared angrily, "This is ridiculous. A life for a life. My family and I were wronged, but no one helped me. No one helped me complain. I wanted to find out the truth myself. It's only right and proper. Don't put the cart before the horse. They were the ones who treated human lives like grass, not me, Chen Guang. You're the director of the Special Affairs Bureau, and you're doing your job, but now you want to put the blame on me? What position are you sitting on? Who are you working for?" Sung Yongtai glared at Chen Guang. "I'm working for ordinary people. I know how terrifying they are, so I have to stop you. You didn't kill them, but they died because of you. You just wait and see. If you continue to be stubborn, this is just the beginning. Soon, there will be more serious consequences, and you will pay a price you can't bear." Chen Guang was so angry that he laughed. "I thought you were a dog raised by those people, and now I'm right. It's because of the existence of people like you that those so-called top people can be so unscrupulous. I just wanted to dig up their background a little, and they killed people as they pleased. After killing people, they have people like you to clean up after them. Now, another 25 people have died. You know who the murderer is, but you don't want to uphold justice. Instead, you want me to stop? Putting aside my personal matters, these 25 people died in vain. I admit that this matter might have something to do with me, so I can't just stand by and watch. Of course, this matter isn't over, and there will be more serious consequences, but those people should pay the price." Chen Guang gradually calmed down. Did he really not have a trace of regret in his heart? However, he had seen far too many deaths in the sea of time, and he was no longer that melancholic and sentimental person of the past. He admitted that he was responsible for the sudden turn of events this time. Because of the existence of kind-hearted martial artists like Wan and Xian Qin, and because his family was only framed and not exterminated, he thought that those people at least had a bottom line. He underestimated their insanity and too casually spied on them, which led to this sudden and bitter outcome. Now he understood that those people had only framed his family because they had some scruples. Now, they had not done anything to his family because they were also scruples. But for the same reason, as long as it was used on people without any background, they would have no bottom line because they did not have to pay any price. In all these years, it was people like Sang Yongtai who stood in front of him who gave them the belief that they could kill people at will without paying any price. No matter what they did, the Special Affairs Bureau, represented by Sang Yongtai, was playing the role of an accomplice. Chen Guang did not intend to shirk his responsibility, But he also did not intend to make any concessions with Sun Yongtai. Since they felt that they could do whatever they wanted without paying any price, then he would make them pay the price. I am at fault in this matter, and I must personally make up for this mistake. The dead cannot be resurrected, but I must at least avenge them. As for these families who had helped the people behind the scenes to put pressure on the Chun family and financially ruin the Chun family, Chun Guang felt that they were at fault, but they did not deserve to die. But now they were dead, and the price was too heavy. They were not flawed NPCs in the sea of time, but real people in the world he lived in. Chun Guang was not a person with a strong sense of justice, but this matter had completely dragged him into it. Whether it was for himself or for others, he could not stand by and watch. What a joke! You don't understand how scary they are. Don't think that just because you know how to throw a few darts, you're just an ant compared to them. Why do you have to make them pay the price? You don't know how much effort we put in, how much humiliation we endured to gradually stabilize the situation today. Are you going to ruin the years of hard work of the entire Special Bureau for your own selfishness? When Sun Yongtai heard him say that he wanted to make internal strength martial artists pay the price, he was so angry that he almost laughed. Chun Guang looked straight at him. It is my fault, I will take it, but Sun Yongtai, you guys are not innocent either. Don't try to use your so-called hard work to blackmail me. I look down on people like you from the bottom of my heart. No, dogs like you. If you're really doing this for the so-called ordinary people, then why did you not hesitate to put all the blame on us, a family like us, in the first place? I believe that my family is not an exception. Who knows how many people in the country are like my family? Forget it. Don't answer me. Let me tell you why. It is because deep in your bones, you feel that martial artists are cut above ordinary people. As long as ordinary people accidentally get involved in the fight between internal strength martial artists, no matter if it is passive or active, the ordinary people will always be in the wrong, and the martial artists will always be in the right. Understand? You have turned yourself into their dogs. Sun Yongtai found that he could not argue with him. He only pointed a trembling finger at Chun Guang. You will regret it. You will definitely regret it. Chun Guang shook his head. If I stop now, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Say it. They must have something for you to tell me, and then you can leave. Sun Yongtai's expression froze. After a while, he said indifferently, That's right. They told me to tell you that this is just a greeting. If you continue to pester them, they'll target your friends, your classmates, and your relatives next time. Although they're a little afraid of you now, if you do not know what is good for you and want a foot after an inch, then don't blame them. Okay, then go back and tell them. This matter ends here, Chun Guang said suddenly. Sun Yongtai was stunned. He obviously did not believe Chun Guang's words. He was puzzled. He was just scolding him. Why did this guy suddenly change his mind? See, I agree, but you didn't believe me. You passed the message, but they didn't believe me either. In fact, what we said is nonsense, isn't it? Get lost. You're useless as a dog. Chun Guang waved his hand, ordering him to leave. Sun Yongtai was furious, but in the end, he endured it, snorted coldly, opened the door, and walked out. When Sun Yongtai went out, he said loudly to the Yin Jing police chief who had been waiting outside, Find any reason to lock him up for at least 10 years. Don't let him go out and cause trouble. It will be good for everyone. Chun Guang sneered. Sun Yongtai's words were purely bluffing. He was just venting his anger after being scolded by him. Officer Wu, why are you not leaving? A Yin Jing police officer came in and looked around. Wu Tong's heart was filled with dark clouds at this time. There were so many doubts. How could she be willing to leave? I need to communicate with my client. Officer Wu, I am afraid this matter is not within the scope of your position. The man did not listen to her and left. Wu Tong stood up, took out another certificate from her pocket. I forgot to tell you, I just passed the graduation exam of Shun Special Training Camp. This is my special examination certificate. I now have a special position. I have the power to ask about the major cases nationwide. The man was shocked at first. Then he pouted and left, closing the door again. Wu Tong quickly sat down and grabbed Chun Guang's hand. What is going on? I was the one who answered the phone. My dad also told me a lot, but why do I feel like I am the only one kept in the dark? Chun Guang looked at her, patted the back of his sister's hand. It is a small matter, as long as it is not the end of the world. It is not a big deal, don't worry about it. Just like when one did not want to tell him too many secrets of the internal force martial artist to protect him. At this time, Chen Guang had the same attitude towards Wu Tong. The less she knew, the better. Chapter 583. Wu Tong obviously didn't believe his words. Her almond-shaped eyes widened. Tell me the truth. What the hell is going on? 25 people died in one night. This is such a big case. Don't play dumb with me. Chen Guang felt a headache coming on. He even blamed Wu Shan in his heart for letting Wu Tong get involved in this matter. She didn't play any role at all. She didn't know what Wu Shan was thinking. In fact, Chen Guang completely misunderstood Wu Shan. Wu Shan didn't know that this matter involved an inner force martial artist. It was just that he had been shocked by the explosive news that had suddenly been reported all the way from below. An ordinary case of 4 casualties naturally wouldn't be reported to him. But if the matter involved the well-known grandson-in-law of the Jin family, the importance of the matter would be raised to another level. However, Wu Shan knew that Chen Guang and Jin Shuriwei were pretending to have a relationship. He had asked Wu Tong about this before. Then, Wu Shan knew that his daughter's relationship with Chen Guang wasn't ordinary. Chen Guang also saved Wu Tong's life. After analyzing the case, Wu Shan deduced from his experience that Chen Guang would definitely be acquitted and released. After all, this matter was just speculation. Wu Shan didn't believe that Chen Guang was the murderer. Perhaps he did have some purpose in finding that family through the police system, but it was impossible for him to kill them. Wu Shan, who had once tried Su Lijing with Chen Guang, didn't believe that Chen Guang was a person who disregarded human life. In his impression, although Chen Guang wasn't blindly righteous, he was extremely principled. He didn't lack money now, so it was impossible for him to kill people for a mere 800,000 yuan. Of course, this didn't mean that Wu Shan had completely lost his principles. He didn't think too much about it. He only told Wu Tong to communicate with Chen Guang and get him to cooperate with the investigation. He also told Wu Tong not to have any conflict with Beijing's officers. After all, Wu Shan knew that Chen Guang was powerful and had a violent temper. What if he killed a police officer in Beijing with a single punch? That would be a huge problem. As soon as Wu Tong arrived, she directly bumped into Tseng Yongtai from the Special Bureau. Although Wu Tong wasn't very clear about the Special Bureau's background, Tseng Yongtai seemed to have a lot of authority in the Yanjing Police Department. The leader of the Yanjing Bureau did make it clear to Wu Tong that this matter was ultimately decided by Director Tseng. Wu Tong, as the temporary contact person appointed by the Dachuan Provincial Office, after a brief communication with Tseng Yongtai, because she could make Chen Guang behave. Tseng Yongtai was also happy to see her communicate with Chen Guang. Wu Tong had always thought that her job was to make Chen Guang and Tseng Yongtai cooperate. But when she really listened to Chen Guang and Tseng Yongtai's conversation and received a phone call in between, and the death toll rose from 3 to 25, she realized that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. Although each case seemed to be an independent individual, there were all sorts of coincidences. Until now, they hadn't even found the motive and method of the murderer. But it was precisely because the sudden deaths of these 7 families were particularly strange. According to past case handling experience, it could indeed be regarded as a unified major case and filed first. If there were any other secrets, they could also be separated in the process of investigation. It's really nothing. I can't explain it to you. Chen Guang was having a headache from Wu Tong's interrogation. What do you mean you can't explain it to me? I've always felt that the matter of your family's hot pot restaurant wasn't simple, but I really couldn't find any details. What kind of people did you investigate behind my back? Aren't you afraid of death? As Wu Tong chatted with him, she managed to straighten out her thoughts. Did those people want to hide the truth, so they directly cut off the loose ends? Chen Guang was still shaking his head and lying through his teeth. Although he knew that he couldn't fool Wu Tong couldn't do anything about it if he refused to admit it. Wu Tong looked at him angrily. She wanted to strangle this guy. I'm the police. Why are you trying to show off? Do you think this is still a child house? 25 lives. It's only you that I can calmly ask you here. If it were another suspect in such a case, I would first beat you half to death before asking you. At this moment, the door of the detention room was suddenly opened. Yan Ingjian, the person in charge of the Beijing bureau, stood outside the door with a straight face. Officer Wu, come out. Chen Guang is involved in a major case and is now a criminal suspect. Even if you know him, you still have to pay attention to the disciplinary issues. Wu Tong stood up. From a legal point of view, Chen Guang was indeed a major suspect. But from an emotional point of view, she was extremely disgusted with Yan Ingjian's words. Director Yan, it's true that he is a suspect, but as a special class police officer who graduated from Shun Special Training Camp, I'm also the contact person for the Chuan. I'm qualified to participate in the case. Wu Tong only hesitated for 5 seconds. She no longer asked Chen Guang, but chose to confront Yan Ingjian. Yan Ingjian obviously didn't expect Wu Tong to choose to fight him head-on. His face turned cold. Wu Tong, since you're a junior and I've been good friends with your father for many years, I'll give you a piece of advice. You'd better not get involved in this case. The consequences are more serious than you think. Wu Tong frowned even more. Although the investigation of Chen Guang had just begun and there was no strong evidence, the situation seemed to have taken a sharp turn after Chen Guang and Director Zhong of the Special Bureau broke down. This director, Yin, seemed to be targeting Chen Guang. His words implied that he wanted to make Chen Guang's case a reality. Yan Ingjian saw Wu Tong frown and stopped talking. He thought she was afraid, so he turned his head and said, Xiao Yuntai, you and Xiao Yang take Chen Guang to the interrogation room. I will ask him personally. Wu Tong woke up with a start and shouted, Stop! She opened her arms in front of Chen Guang, like an angry hen trying to protect her child in front of an eagle. Xiao Yuntai and Xiao Yang froze in place. They were at a loss. They couldn't afford to offend Wu Tong. They looked at Yan Ingjian for help. In this case, only the director could do it. Wu Tong, you'd better think about your identity. You're a police officer. Your father got you here to help us investigate Chen Guang, not to cause trouble. You won't be able to help us in your current state, and you'll only be harming yourself and your father. Yan Ingjian also felt a headache. At this time, Chen Guang stood up and held Wu Tong's waist from behind. He pushed her aside and said, It's okay. Let them interrogate him. Wu Tong looked back at him. Are you crazy? They're obviously trying to frame you. Yan Ingjian couldn't stop coughing. Although Wu Tong was not a police officer in Yanjing, she was still their colleague. Although he did intend to do so, it was too embarrassing for Wu Tong to say it in front of him. Wu Tong, don't slander me. When we encounter such a major case, we will be more cautious and strict in handling it. You're also a police officer. You have to be responsible for your own words. Wu Tong waved her hand. How am I irresponsible? All right. Don't talk anymore. Don't make trouble here. Chen Guang pinched Wu Tong's waist without batting an eyelid. He used a lot of force, causing Wu Tong to shrink back halfway through her words. Chen Guang didn't feel guilty, nor did he panic. He wanted to see how this director Yin planned to deal with him. He was no longer the ignorant Wu of the past. He had someone backing him up. It seemed that this director Yin and Tseng Yongtai had a good relationship. The two of them should be in the same boat. Let me in. I also have the right to sit in. The group of people turned to the interrogation room. Yan Ingjian wanted to stop Wu Tong outside the door, but she started to make a scene again. All right. You can sit in if you want. Yan Ingjian gritted his teeth and began to curse in his heart. You can use your identity as Wu Shan's daughter to make a scene. If things get out of hand, even your father can't protect you. The Special Affairs Bureau was behind this. Even if Chen Guang was backed by the the Jin family couldn't fall out with the Special Affairs Bureau because of him. Tseng Yongtai didn't just represent himself. There were people behind him. Chen Guang, be honest. Aside from you, who else are your accomplices? What methods did your accomplices use to harm? Yan Ingjian spoke the moment everyone sat down. Wu Tong interrupted him again. Director Yin, now Chen Guang is only a possible suspect. I think there is something wrong with your interrogation method. Yan Ingjian finally got angry. He slammed the table and stood up. Wu Tong, are you done? Get out of here. Chen Guang, who was sitting in a chair, was as steady as a mountain. He coughed and said, It's strange. When did the police station become a place to compete for the loudest voice? Shut up. Yin Ingjian didn't say anything. Instead, it was Wu Tong who told Qin Guang to shut up. Wu Tong's idea was very simple. At this time, the more Qin Guang said, the more mistakes he made. It might be used by the cunning Yin Ingjian to make a fuss. However, Qin Guang paid no attention to him and replied, Bureau Chief Yin, I have a question. I've been participating in the training in Shund, and I haven't contacted anyone. I even stayed in the military's guest house last night. I believe that it won't be hard for you to check my phone records. I have an alibi. So on what basis are you saying that I'm a mastermind? Did you guess it with your toes? Yin Ingjian looked at the prepared confession in his hand. He didn't intend to give Qin Guang any chance to speak. That's not what you said in the first confession. Xiao Yuntai, transfer him to the detention center and formally detain him. After that, he was about to kick him out. He didn't care about Qin Guang's so-called alibi at all. He didn't think that he needed to care about anything since he had the imperial sword given by San Yongtai. Although this might offend the Jin family, so what? At least he wouldn't die, right? If he succeeded in getting in touch with those people through the special bureau, the Jin family might not dare to do anything to him. He was just a grandson-in-law. If he died, he could find another one. He wasn't that important to the Jin family. As for this person's identity as an instructor in the Shun special training area, it might indeed be a potential trouble. However, this matter was proposed by the special bureau. San Yongtai had said that he would take full responsibility for everything. In addition, Yin Ingjian's order wasn't to kill Qin Guang, but to lock him up for 37 days and then let him go. Perhaps he didn't want to provoke Qin Guang to resist too fiercely, so he quietly moved his head closer and whispered, Qin Guang, I know that you will definitely be acquitted in the end, but I also have my own difficulties. Please understand me. I guarantee that I'll get someone to serve you well in the detention center. You can even surf the internet. You can do whatever you want in there. You just have to stay for 37 days. You just have to cooperate. This is good for everyone. Wu Tong wanted to come closer, but she was blocked by a few other Yin Jing personnel who had been called in to form a human wall. Listening to Yin Ingjian's whispers, Qin Guang raised his eyebrows. Sure enough, San Yongtai's roar was nothing more than a warning to him, hoping that he would back off. If he wasn't in a hurry to collect faith points, it wouldn't matter if he was locked up for 37 days. However, he really couldn't afford to waste time now. Woman had to rely on her own strength to face the two major sects, Poison Sect and Dark Sect. Perhaps there was someone behind the hot pot poisoning case. Every day he wasted, he would be more worried. He grinned again. Director Yin, it seems that you're also a sensible person. Why don't you help me pass a message to Director Tsung, who hasn't gone far? I won't investigate this matter anymore. I really won't investigate it anymore. It's meaningless for me to waste time in the detention center. I'll save my energy. After I get out, I'll do what I need to do with you guys. Everyone can pretend that nothing happened. If you insist on using such petty tricks to waste my time, I'm afraid that you'll be the one in trouble instead of me. Yin Ingjian was threatened by Qin Guang. He glared at him. Do you really think that I'm afraid of you? Do you really think that I'm afraid of old Master Jin? You haven't even married into the family yet, and you're already putting on airs? Yin Ingjian didn't believe that the Jin family would care that much about Qin Guang, their grandson-in-law. Moreover, the Jin family wouldn't want to completely fall out with the forces behind the Special Affairs Bureau, right? At this moment, there was a commotion in the hall outside. In just 10 to 20 seconds, a middle-aged man appeared at the door of the interrogation room. Yin Ingjian propped himself up and was stunned. It was Secretary Chu Zhaowei, who had been popular for the past 2 years. Why was he here? Behind Secretary Chu, an old man in military uniform appeared. It was Old Tan. Yin Ingjian was even more flustered. Am I blind? Why is General Tan here in person? Is Qin Guang that important as the chief instructor of Shun's special training camp? That's impossible. Isn't his title of chief instructor something the Jin family used to gild him? What's it to teach a lousy dart? Isn't this a laughing stock? Poor Yin Ingjian was fooled by San Yongtai. Although there were people in the Yanjing police station who had participated in Qin Guang's special training, according to the confidentiality regulations of Shun's special training camp. Even he, the director of the Yinjing police station, didn't know the specific content of the special training camp, so he couldn't ask. He only took Sun Yongtai's words as the golden rule. In Tsang Yongtai's description, the so-called chief instructor of Chengguang didn't carry any weight. Yan Ingjian? Who allowed you to arrest Chengguang? What's wrong with your brain after being a policeman for so many years? Where's the evidence? Where's your evidence? Old Tan took the lead and walked forward. Although he didn't bring a single soldier with him, he alone was equivalent to thousands of troops and horses. Chu Xiaowei, who was next to him, was also livid. He held a document in black and white with a stamp as well as a photo. Director Yin, take a look at this document first. Chu Xiaowei said. Yan Ingjian took a look and found that the document was a commendation letter. It was a commendation letter for Chun Guang's outstanding contribution in Shun's special training camp. It clearly stated everything from when he entered Shun's special training camp to when he left. This meant that the entire Shun's special training camp was helping Chun Guang make up an alibi for the past few days. In addition, this photo made his head even more swollen. It turned out that Chun Guang was drinking with the three old men, Jin Jiangtan, and a group of second and third generations at the youth hall. At this time yesterday, Chun Guang was also eating with the leaders at Baoshan restaurant. Also, this is the call records of Chun Guang during this period that I got from the communications department. This USB flash drive contains the surveillance videos of Chun Guang staying in several hotels after living next door to that family. Which one of your eyes found evidence of Chun Guang's involvement in the case? Chu Xiaowei was usually very kind, but this time he was ordered to come, and he was really angry. Yan Ingjian was questioned again and again, and he had a guilty conscience. He rolled his eyes. But there was a day when Chun Guang's whereabouts were unknown. He was talking about the day when Chun Guang and Wenwen hung out together. Chun Guang's whereabouts that day were indeed not recorded. Sun Yongtai also didn't know when he flashed out. Things had gotten to this point, and if he didn't come out to help poor Yan Ingjian, he wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Greetings, General Tan. Greetings, Secretary Chu. The two turned to look at Sun Yongtai. General Tan frowned. Director Tsung, what are you doing here? Sun Yongtai decided to go straight to the point. He first signaled with his eyes to let the irrelevant people leave. Soon, only Chun Guang, Wu Tong, Yan Ingjian, and Chu Tam were left in the room. I'll be straightforward. The big shots from the Poison Sect and Dark Clan wanted me to knock some sense into Chun Guang. As for who Chun Guang was with that day, I'll help him explain it. General Tin should know about it. The bloody battle in Feng Town was between the One Clan's Missy and the One Clan's Third Master. Chun Guang can be considered as Missy Wen's man. Now that Third Master Wen is dead, I can say something about it. Third Master Wen is from the Poison Sect and Dark Clan. Before that day, Chun Guang was indeed with Missy Wen. This so-called murder case was also an attempt by the Poison Sect and Dark Clan to make Chun Guang behave. Now that Missy Wen and the two big sects are at loggerheads, why should small fry like us get involved in a fight between the gods? We'll just go along with their wishes and settle the matter. Isn't that a happy ending? When Sun Yongtai said this, there was a hint of pride and nonchalance in his tone. Old Man Tan's lips trembled in anger. He wanted to scold Sun Yongtai, but no words came out of his mouth. Chu Xiaowei understood the terrifying meaning behind Sun Yongtai's words. This matter was about to go beyond his authority. As for Chun Guang, although he had already guessed that the Poison Sect and Dark Clan were the real culprits behind the hot pot incident, he did not expect Sun Yongtai to admit it so directly and generously. He did it in front of Wu Tong, Old Man Tan, Chu Xiaowei, and Yan Ingjian. He was obviously saying, if I want to do something, you guys have to kneel and listen to my orders. Sun Yongtai's so-called fight between the gods even included small fry like Old Man Tan and Chu Xiaowei. Obviously, in his heart, other than inner force martial artists, everyone else was a small fry. Only inner force martial artists were his masters. It was a simple sentence, but he admitted to a lot of things. In fact, there were signs of this long ago, but everyone turned a blind eye in the past. However, Chun Guang, who had a special identity and was caught in the middle, became the fuse and once again brought this matter that no one was willing to think about to the surface. Sung Yongtai's actions were the same as many years ago. He revealed his trump card. He looked like he had already become a servant serving inner force martial artists. What could they do to him? General Tan's lips finally trembled. Sung Yongtai, Sung Yongtai, we put so much hope in you. Is this how the Special Affairs Bureau has been doing things all these years? We've been taking care of you, but you've become their dogs? Sung Yongtai had lost count of how many times he had been called a dog today, but he was resistant and did not feel ashamed at all. General Tan, a wise man, submits to circumstances. You were the ones who taught me this. If you hadn't adapted to circumstances back then, why would there be a department like the Special Affairs Bureau? Don't you think so? But we want you to spy on them, not to serve them, Chu Xiaowei said angrily. Sung Yongtai, who had finally shed all pretense of cordiality, no longer hid his insolence. He said coldly, "It's useless for you to say that to me. You have to say it to our chief, Ouyang. I'm just a servant following orders. Go to hell with your pretentious act." Sung Yongtai was still feeling smug when Chun Guang suddenly punched him in the face. "I've been annoyed with you for a long time. I'm not playing anymore. Go tell your chief, Ouyang, to swell up. I want to see how swollen he is. I'm leaving today. Let the Poison Clan and Dark Clan come and kill me. You only know how to talk tough. If you really wanted to kill me, you would have done it 800 years ago. Who would be in the mood to waste time with you? Stop pretending to be profound." Chun Guang really did not want to know how big of a conspiracy he was involved in. He did not want to think about it all. It was not that he was stupid, but it was extremely annoying. He was annoyed to no end. Once he mastered his godly skills, he would not have so many messy things to deal with. He only understood one thing. Since the Poison Clan and Dark Clan were still playing this game of beating him up instead of killing him directly, he would definitely be fine even if he swaggered out of this place today. It was obvious that he was still useful to keep his life. Wenwen's power as a thought grandmaster was indeed intimidating enough. They were wary of him. To put it bluntly, the matter was very simple. He could simply rely on his faith points to enter the middle realm of the Heavenly Spirit Cup and learn the painting manual as soon as possible. Then, he might be able to count on the mysterious prize that Luli had prepared for him. Then, he would become someone with a fist harder than anyone else. I don't care what sect you guys are from or what looks like. I'm not King playing anymore. The old man is the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail. The old man wants to master all the Qilin arms and become a peerless thought grandmaster with just a lift of his hand. Then, he can flip your table, all right? Chun Guang's sudden attack had left everyone dumbfounded, while Sung Yongtai was even dizzy from the punch. Before Yin Ingjian could say anything, Chun Guang punched him in the stomach again. "You're not a good guy either." Scram! Chu Xiaowei and Old Man Tan were also stunned by Chun Guang's sudden outburst. "Thank you for your kind intentions today. I'm really fine. It's just a small matter. Go back and pretend that nothing happened and that you don't know anything. Soon, I'll give all of you an explanation, even if I have to risk my life. I'm leaving." Chun Guang was about to leave. Wu Tong caught up and grabbed Chun Guang's arm. "Wait for me." Chun Guang stopped in his tracks and ruthlessly pinched Wu Tong's butt. "I told you to stay out of this. Just go back." Wu Tong shook his head. "No, I don't want to." "You can't?" Chun Guang glared. Wu Tong was actually a little scared by his stare. She pinched him and said, "I'm worried about you. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.